Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to foot.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Gucci Goo, are you autistic, little boy? Do you have a peanut allergy? Here, eat this peanut and tell me how you feel. Oh, God, his throat's closed. He's definitely autistic.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome one and all to a special Sunday evening edition of the New Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobler, of course.
Hello.
Hope you enjoyed that brief intro. That's by a creator called Meat Canyon here.
Meat Canyon. Don't forget to see how that ends.
Yes. You can watch
it's a real
the whole
twist
thing
ending
at Meat Canyon's channel. See, satire is alive and well. Satire's alive and well. Yeah. You just have to make it. You know, it's funny. I wanted to do a piece about RFK. We really wanted to do the RFK swimming in the shit water.
We did. Why did we do that?
I guess there was more important stuff to cover, you know.
Like what?
Like
that's an oxymoron.
Yeah.
RFK, shit water, more important
genocide, war, all those things. Yeah. No, it's funny because that story reminded me of when I was in Washington State. I went on a hike visiting my second cousin lives in Washington State, about an hour and a half outside of Seattle, and we were like, I was probably like 12 or 13, and we went hiking in the woods because my cousin, he loved to hike. His whole family loved to hike. They were obsessed with hiking. And so we went in the woods, and there was this creek of really cold water, and we just filled our water bottles up and started chugging this water. It was delicious water. I mean, it was ice cold, just fresh, delicious water. We loved it. It was so the best water I ever had.
Yeah.
No one's ever tasted water like that. And then when we got back to the house,
6 months later, you had to coke a worm out of your asshole with a bowl of French onion soup.
The women, so we went with the dads. The dads and the sons went hiking, and we chugged this delicious water. And then when we got back, the moms were terrified that we got giardia because, you know, the beavers, I guess, they shit in the water. But it didn't taste like beaver shit water. I mean, you would think I would taste beaver shit if it was in the water. That was delicious water. I don't remember if we got sick or not. Maybe my brother did. I didn't. My cousin didn't. I don't think any of the adults. I don't think any of us got sick. I think it was a false alarm. But yeah, they were very concerned that we drank that raw water. But man, I still remember that water. That was some of the best water I've ever tasted. It was amazing. You know, Pacific Northwest mountains.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Oh, it's outstanding. Outstanding.
Take me home, country road.
Yeah. I can't imagine the DC water is like that. Didn't even look fun what he was doing. That looked like a Russell Brand baptism job. It didn't even look like he was swimming. It looks like he just dunked his body under it. Like it didn't even look fun.
He left his jeans on, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's quite the guy. But anyway. Great satire there from Meat Canyon. He's got a big channel, 8 million subscribers. So yeah, go see how that ends and check it out and subscribe. Got to support our satirists.
All right, and you know what I was very happy to discover this week. I found a protest singer that was pretty damn good, Carsey Blanton. Now, if that's not a redneck name, I don't know what is. But she wears it proudly. Wears it very proudly. My intermission is all built around her music. She's actually on tour right now. I am very bummed because she's doing Brooklyn on May 25th. I'm still going to be here.
Oh, wow. Well, Russ will be in town for the Jimmy Dore show. What's that, the 29th?
That's the 28th.
Okay, 28th. All right. So yeah, get tickets. 28th, May 28th at what's the name of the club? He just put out a thing. I forget what the name of the club is.
It's yeah, man. They tell me it's down by like the hockey stadium.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Well, May 28th, Buffalo, New York. That'll be fun. All right, folks. Well, thanks all for being here tonight. Appreciate you very much. Got a good crowd filing in here so far. 966 strong in the YouTube chat to start things off. 584 over on Rumble. Shout out to Jake in the booth tonight. Round of applause for Jake in the chat, please, and thank you.
And I think also, I'll mention it again later, but I am probably going to be doing my last poetry reading here in Buffalo Friday at Cafe Aroma. I think it starts at 8:30.
Oh, nice. All right, there we go. Good plug we got in there. All right, beautiful. Okay, folks, we are going to get started. Lots to get to tonight. Obviously, the Q&A will be after the program over on Rumble, so make sure you stick around with us for that. Okay, folks, so we're going to start out with some serious news. So you may remember last week this headline surfaced in the Jerusalem Post. Donald Trump to announce U.S. recognizes Palestinian state, Gulf diplomatic source claims. Now, Russ and I did not make a big deal out of this because we're very immature. We won't take yes for an answer. We just don't want to give Trump credit for anything. We're just some naysayer, negative Nancys over
just
here.
Progressives.
Yeah, we can't help it.
We need to get on board,
right, yeah,
and help out and pitch in.
Right.
Who cares if it's Trump?
Right. Or who cares if it's actually real? I mean, that's a flaw.
Who cares
if
it's real? That doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Look, if Trump would pass universal health care, if Trump would increase the minimum wage, if Trump would strengthen unions, he would be the greatest president ever.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So if he just says some offhanded shit, a guy who starts screaming about Taylor Swift after coming back from the Middle East, that's somebody you should take really seriously when he vaguely is rumored to have maybe said something about recognizing a Palestinian state, which in and of itself wouldn't really mean anything either.
Right. Exactly. But this was in the news, and Ambassador Mike Huckabee quickly poured cold water on that. Jerusalem Post needs better sources than this unidentified source. My 4-year-old grandson Teddy is more reliable. And take it from Teddy, this report is nonsense. Israel doesn't have a better friend than the President of the United States. Well, turns out there may be a Palestinian state in the works, but looks more and more like that state might be Libya. That's the only unfortunate part, is that, yes, you might have a Palestinian state being formed in the state of Libya, as it turns out. Trump administration working on plan to move 1 million Palestinians to Libya. NBC exclusive. The Trump administration is working on a plan to permanently relocate up to 1 million Palestinians from the Gaza Strip to Libya. 5 people with knowledge of the effort told NBC News. The plan is under serious enough consideration that the administration has discussed it with Libya's leadership. 2 people with direct knowledge of the plans and a former U.S. official said. In exchange for the resettling of Palestinians, the administration would potentially release to Libya billions of dollars of funds that the U.S. froze more than a decade ago, those 3 people said. No final agreement has been reached, and Israel has been kept informed of the administration's discussions, the same 3 sources said. The State Department and the National Security Council did not respond to multiple requests for comment before this article was published. After publication, a spokesperson told NBC News, "These reports are untrue. The situation on the ground is untenable for such a plan. Such a plan was not discussed and makes no sense," the spokesperson said. Okay, so I know what some of our naysayers might be saying. Well, Keaton, why would you lend credibility to this report, but not to the Jerusalem Post report saying Donald Trump is going to recognize a Palestinian state? Well, that's a fair enough
question.
That's a fair question.
I was wondering that myself.
Yes, Russell was
Well,
going to.
maybe I should have looked over this segment first.
Yes, Russell is about to quit the show, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's about to resign in protest over
I've got my
bias.
bug out bag right next to me.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there is one thing that I think lends some credibility to this, which is if you remember last week, Netanyahu says Israel will finish the war in Gaza and drive out 50% of Palestinians. So 50% of Palestinians would be about 1 million people. That would be that the math works out on that. There were 2.3 million to start. A few 100,000 were, of course, murdered. And that leaves about 2 million left, half of which is 1 million, which, of course, corresponds to the number that Donald Trump is planning on relocating to Libya. So I think that gives a little credibility to this reporting. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu declared that Israel would complete its military objectives in Gaza and force out at least 50% of the population. On Tuesday, Netanyahu said even if Israel agrees to a temporary pause for the release of hostages, it will resume its military operations in Gaza. We in the coming days will be entering with all our strength to complete the process. There will not be a situation where we stop this war. In his remarks, Netanyahu confirmed that Tel Aviv was working to fund countries to take in Palestinian refugees, believing that at least half could be forced out of their homelands. What might that country be? Libya, is what the NBC report says, according to sources with knowledge of the matter. So again, this seems to be checking out. Okay, we don't know it for sure, but it seems to be checking out, believing that at least half could be forced out of their homeland. But there is one problem. We need countries to receive them, he continued. This is what we are working on right now. If you give them an exit, I am telling you that more than 50% will leave. In my opinion, much more. Aside from that, we know this past week here, starting on Thursday, going through till today, these have been some of the bloodiest days since October 7th. Israel begins Gaza ground operation, kills 140 in relentless bombardment. That was today. This is today's reporting. The Israeli military announced the start of extensive new ground operations throughout northern and southern Gaza. On a day, it killed at least 140 people in waves of relentless strikes across the Palestinian enclave. At least 36 people were killed and more than 100 wounded when Israeli warplanes bombed a tent camp sheltering displaced Palestinians in the Al-Mawasi area of Khan Yunis in southern Gaza, medical sources told Al Jazeera. At least 135 people were killed on Sunday morning, including 42 in the heavily bombed northern parts of Gaza, medical sources told Al Jazeera Arabic. 5 journalists were also among the victims when their homes were bombed. At least 464 Palestinians have been killed in the past week as the Israeli military prepared to significantly intensify its ground invasion of the Palestinian territory despite international criticism. So, again, you add all of this up. You have reports of a resettlement plan for Libya. You have Netanyahu this week saying they're going to ramp up their efforts with the express intention of driving half of the population, i.e. 1 million Palestinians, out. Now you have some of the bloodiest days of the conflict happening since that statement was made. And Steve Witkoff today on Sunday said for all of the talk of a rift between Trump and Netanyahu that they are essentially on the same page as of now.
President John is a humanitarian, and I think that everyone is concerned about the humanitarian conditions in Gaza. That said, it is a very complicated situation there. Logistically, I don't think there's any daylight between President Trump's position and Prime Minister Netanyahu's position. The issue now is, how do we logistically get all of those trucks into Gaza? How do we set up the aid stations? There are many initiatives that we're working on to address this.
Okay. So what I think is going on here is that the rift between Trump and Netanyahu is more over Iran than Gaza. I think that what's happening is Trump does not want a war with Iran. I think he's proud of the fact that he didn't start a new war when he was president the first time. I think he would consider a war with Iran a stain on his legacy this time. And so I think there is some tension and some disagreement about that. I also think that Trump figures, hey, you know what? If we can get the Palestinians out of Gaza and help Israel annex the West Bank, essentially all of the West Bank, you know what? I will have done my $1 million worth for Miriam, and I'll let President J.D. Vance start the war with Iran, or President Pete Buttigieg, if we lose, start the war with Iran. I don't think he wants that. And I think his thinking is, you know what? The more of Palestine I could get for them, the more of a chance they might let me get away with not bombing Iran. That's my guess. That's my guess. My guess is as good as anyone's. It's probably not as good as many people's. But there seems to be no question that this onslaught will not stop until the Palestinians are displaced, and Trump seems totally on board with that, i.e., not much of a Palestinian state to speak of in the near future, unfortunately. I'm sorry I didn't get more excited about that.
I said, Miriam, what do I have to do to only take the 6 inches?
Yeah, right.
You know I can't sit down when you use the 12. She said, Gaza. I need Gaza.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry I doubted you. You make a good case. I'll unpack the bug out bag now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You make a good case. Yeah.
I mean, they clearly want to put him somewhere. They're clearly not going to stop until they find a place to put him.
With Libya, well, this is what we predicted from the beginning they were going to do.
Yes.
They would make it unlivable in Gaza, and then they would use that to pressure surrounding countries through bribery and political pressure from the United States to take in enough Palestinians that they've essentially got Greater Israel. This has always been about the Greater Israel project. Libya is a little bit of a curveball. From what we know, that country has already essentially collapsed into barbarism and slave markets. So what infrastructure is there even there, or government to deal with? But maybe that's part of the attraction, that there's no real government to resist it.
What are they going to say?
So maybe they could just move them there and there's really nobody to do anything about it.
Right.
Because it's already a destroyed place. Maybe that's their vision. Hey, we'll just establish a Palestinian homeland away from the Israelis, and they can rebuild their society here in Libya, and, fuck the Libyans. We don't really care about them anyway, and what are they going to do about it? It seems feasible. More feasible than moving them into Jordan, which has already taken an enormous amount of Palestinians. The Egyptians are not going to agree to it because these countries have to worry about the social and economic instability that would accompany a mass inflow of Palestinians, whereas, Libya couldn't really say anything. Who's there to say anything?
Right. Yeah. So that's a possibility. But I think either way, Donald Trump's short-term goals for Israel are going to be displacing people from Gaza and taking as much of the West Bank. I think that is the priority. And I think part of why that's going to be prioritized is because he doesn't want a war with Iran.
Yeah, right.
And I think he figures if he can get them that, he will have done his part. He will have earned his 100 million. That's what I think is going to happen. The Libya report seems credible to me, that they're at least considering that. But that's not to say it's a done deal. But it seems like kind of a coincidence Netanyahu would pull that 50% number out of his ass at the same week that it breaks that they're talking about displacing 1 million Palestinians.
Yeah, and before we leave this, we've kind of nibbled at the edges of it. I think some of the reason that everybody wants to slap on the knee pads the second Trump says anything vaguely agreeable is just it's psychological. Oh, daddy said something good. oh, I love daddy. I love daddy. I think there's just a weakness in certain people that they really want to bow to somebody. They really want to bow to somebody. And a lot of people came into the Trump administration really wanting to suck his dick, but he did so much shit that was so repulsive so quickly that they had to very reluctantly take the dick out of their mouths. And any pretext, any opportunity they get, like some vague rumor that he's going to recognize a Palestinian state, they get right back on the knees, say, oh, chow time, Trump dick back on the menu. And then you have other people who just know where the money is. And the money is really in telling the massive universe of chuds what they want to hear. So if you can pump up Trump and say, yeah, no, Trump has the right of it and he's fighting and he's doing the right thing, man, that's a lot of money, man. That's a lot of clicks. It's a combination of those things. It's sad. And I think as this administration goes on, that tap dance and that grift is going to become increasingly difficult to pull off as people can't afford groceries, even more so than under Biden, and sooner rather than later.
Yeah, see, this is a very rare example of a time where, my take on humanity is a little more charitable than yours. Very rare. I mean, I think the second group
that is rare. That is rare.
I think the second group you're spot on about. I do think in terms of the former group, I think what a lot of people latch onto is the idea, and it's understandable that, when Biden was president, because he was such a non-entity, you had a real translucent president where you saw right through the president to this seemingly, permanent and entrenched deep state who was just going to be impossible to dislodge from power. And the fact that Trump did dislodge them from power, I think, for a lot of people presented this like possibility, that this opportunity, right, for the people to exert some influence. And so I think some people have a hard time letting go of that hope, right? Like because Biden was so bad, I think there are a lot of people who are just determined to say, well, anything's better than that. It's not just the different from that; it's better than that. And I think that leads to a little bit of a rose-tinted view of things under Donald Trump. That's what I would say.
Well, and the reason yes, that's an element of it. And I said that when people were getting very excited about the USAID stuff, not looking under the hood too much. But look, they said before they went into office, what did Crazy Eyes Patel say? We're not prioritizing Israel enough.
Right.
You're talking about a defense secretary with fucking Nazi tattoos who got taken off a presidential inauguration detail as a security risk. Gabbard painting student protesters as Islamists. It's not like, oh, we didn't know. You knew. So why did you go in like that? It's it's the speech I gave at Rescue the Republic, man. Like, you got Rage Against the War Machine, rather. A lot of people feel like they got to serve somebody, like they got to bend their. You don't. A lot of times there are no good guys. In fact, especially in the political sphere, more often than not, like you don't have to pump anybody up. You really don't. You don't have to be that person. But I think particularly in this space, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. If you're fucking jumping up because of a vague rumor that Trump, after everything he's done since he got into office, that he would be the greatest president of all time if he recognized the Palestinian state, you are not to be taken seriously anymore. Like, shut up. You don't really have anything worthwhile to offer at that point. When you're running around saying Trump's a revolutionary, you're a moron. Stop it. You have nothing worthwhile to say. And you got to remember, these people make a living this way. They make a living that way. There is a very strong incentive to go out with these very hot, over the top takes to get attention. You get clicks, you get viewers that way. But you're doing a real disservice to people who take in your content, who actually trust you. who want to be informed, you're misinforming them.
Yes, I would say that is true. Nocturnal Human says, I had a thought about the executive pharma order. It's not about making Americans pay less. It's about making the rest of the world pay more. Trump is acting like it's a gift when it's a global WEF scheme. Well, yeah, I mean, they could certainly make the rest of the world pay more. It's just a little harder to do that because the rest of the world have, if not government-run healthcare systems, government-involved healthcare systems. So it's a little harder to fleece them because they have more bargaining power, because they essentially buy in a block, if that makes sense. But yes, I mean, they will pay a little more. I would think we would pay at least a little bit less under that arrangement. But yeah, look, ultimately, you're not hurting big pharma unless you are advocating for a universal healthcare system. Like, that's the only thing that's going to disempower big pharma, is to decouple, the profit motive from health. I hear prostate cancer is a real pain in the ass. Oh, is that right, Noah Goop? Is that right, Noah Goop? Is that you here, Dad? Okay, dirtbag, shit's about to get real. Pick one. Parallax View or 3 Days of the Condor? Wrong answers only.
I would go Parallax View.
I've never seen Parallax View, so I don't know. Don't know.
It was good. Like those 70s thrillers, I think it's partly the Technicolor. They have a creepy vibe that you just can't find these days. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like the Conversation with Gene Hackman.
Yeah.
Just have like an eeriness about them.
Seb Griffith says, my last $2 American bucks are being spent on you with a big green heart. Is that because you're leaving the country, Seb? I know you were talking about leaving the country. So are these your last $2 American dollars? It's an honor to have them. I hope they're not your $2 last dollars, period. I hope maybe you have some euros saved up or wherever you're going to. I forget where. Call in if you want. It's Q&A night. 50 milligrams. I like that screen name. Thanks to the $9.99 says, here's $10. Buy yourself some Kratom. Thank you, 50 milligrams. Is that where your screen name comes from? Alex Das Lieb, thanks for the $49.99. Let's have a cowbell for Alex Das Lieb. That's very kind of you to do. I keep forgetting you don't have the physical cowbell with you. I keep forgetting you have the digital cowbell. Here, we got to kill the loop.
Well, you know what's weird here? I see places that seem like they would have something like that. Things here are open very sporadically.
Yeah.
Like those kinds of shops are pretty much closed Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, limited hours Thursday. They might open Friday if they feel like it. Very strange, man.
It's got to be weird walking into a store in Buffalo asking, do you have any cowbells?
Yeah.
Yeah. What aisle would the cowbells be in?
Dude, a guy finally, I clocked
like it's
this.
Near the lube and the condoms? Yes.
It's near the lubes, the condoms, and the raw milk.
Yeah.
When I was here in 2022, I clocked like a storefront theater because I'm like, what the fuck? What is this? So I finally met the guy yesterday and he showed me the theater. As soon as he walked me in, I said, you motherfucker, man. An office with wraparound windows facing the street, a lobby, a large one, like a lobby the size that in New York, they put a whole theater in that lobby. Rehearsal room, green room, storage. He seats the house at 65. You could put 99 in there. 2 pianos. You know what this motherfucker pays?
Yeah, you sent it to me. Yeah.
1,800.
Yeah. Yeah.
18,
live in there.
1,800.
Could live
3
in
bathrooms.
There. Wow. 3 bathrooms. Wow. Fat Not So Fat, thanks to the $4.99, says, my rectum was promised pleasure 3,000 years ago. Recently received a box of kosher toys from Rabbi Shmuley's daughter. It's on Miss Shapiro's wish list. Good one. Thank you. 007 Angelo says, is anyone keeping count? Has to be 500,000 Gaza dead. Yeah, well, it is. I mean, I would imagine it is in the hundreds of thousands. I don't know what exactly it is. And I don't think anybody does. Misty Winston just had Hammett Dartigan on, who, works to sort of track and account for and memorialize the Gaza dead. That was a great interview. So I encourage you to watch that. We clipped that for YouTube in its entirety. All right, folks, this is sort of a B-side of the same general segment here. While we're on Gaza, I did think we should make mention of this. Israel just had a birthday Israel just had a birthday, and AIPAC made sure to commemorate the 77th anniversary of the proclamation of the State of Israel. 77 years ago today, this was back on May 14th, the modern State of Israel was born. Thank you to Democrats and Republicans in Congress who stand with our ally and work to strengthen the U.S.-Israel relationship. So we're going to play some of this video here. So YouTube has this cool new tool where if they detect copyrighted music, they can filter it out for you so you don't get in trouble with the copyright people, which they did for this. So let's take a little bit of a look at this.
The 77th Independence Day. Today we celebrate the 77th Independence Day of Israel, our closest friend and ally in the Middle East.
Just here want to acknowledge and salute and celebrate Israel's 77th year.
I'm proud to congratulate Israel on 77 years of independence.
Something missing from this video, it seems. Oh yeah, AIPAC Tracker took care of this for us. So AIPAC Tracker fixed this video up a little bit. They added context, as we say in the social media world. They added important context to this video by slapping the number of dollars that each of these politicians, both Democrat and Republican, received from AIPAC. So now this, I feel, is a bit more complete. Let's take a look at this now in its entirety.
The 77th Independence Day of Israel, our closest friend and ally in the Middle East.
Just here want to acknowledge and salute and celebrate Israel's 77th year.
I'm proud to congratulate Israel on 77 years of independence.
Wow. 77 years of resilience.
Happy birthday, Israel. Happy Independence Day.
Happy Independence Day.
Mo money.
77 years ago, Jewish leaders signed Israel's Declaration of Independence.
America was the first country to recognize Israel as an independent state.
The generation of 1948 fought for and secured Israel's independence with blood, sweat, and tears.
With blood? Whose blood? Whose blood, I wonder. We'll take a little bit of a look at that in a minute.
This milestone is a testament to the resilience and the enduring spirit of the Israeli people.
The things you've been through, 48, War for Independence, 67, 73, and of course a year and a half ago.
He's got work to do.
I fully support Israel's right to defend itself against these terrorists and their backers.
He works cheap.
This is the second year in a row that not all Israelis are able to celebrate their Independence Day.
It's past time to bring the rest of
456. No, most of the Democrats take more money from Israel because it's harder for them to justify supporting a racist apartheid state to their base than it is for the Republicans to do so to theirs. So it takes more money. They have to grease them a little bit more.
You got
hostages home and restore peace to the region.
We refuse to sit idly by while they suffer.
The United States and Israel have a binding, ironclad partnership.
A strong bipartisan majority of the United States Congress
you're that old. You're
stand firmly with our ally Israel.
It's a win-win relationship.
We must continue to build support for the relationship that transcends politics.
It is a bond rooted in our shared values of liberty,
commitment to religious freedom, and the inherent respect for human life.
Please join me in standing for Israel, for freedom, for peace.
A strong, vibrant, powerful Israel is essential for the world.
May our friendship continue to grow long into the future.
We are in this together.
Fast friends between Israel and America.
Happy Independence Day.
Happy birthday.
I'm Israel. I
really appreciate all that y'all do.
Happy Independence Day. Happy birthday. They put that out last week. As one of the most intense bombardments of Gaza began since October 7th. So they are, of course, memorializing the creation of Israel. May 14th, 1948, David Ben-Gurion, the head of the Jewish Agency, proclaimed the establishment of the State of Israel. U.S. President Harry Truman recognized the new nation on the same day. This was the day before the expiration of the British Mandate, which meant the next day would be May 15th. That would be the Nakba Day. Middle East Eye breaks down the ethnic cleansing of Palestine in 1948, which continues to define events in Israel-Palestine today. So just understand, all of those politicians, when they're wishing Israel a happy birthday, they are fondly remembering this, what we are about to show you. Each year on May 15th, millions mark the Nakba, or catastrophe, which refers to the ethnic cleansing of Palestine by Zionist militias to make way for the creation of Israel in 1948. In a premeditated military campaign, Zionist forces killed thousands of Palestinians, destroyed hundreds of villages, and forcibly expelled 80% of the Palestinian population from their homeland. Pardon me. After more than a year of relentless violence, the newly created State of Israel captured 78% of historic Palestine. The remaining 22%, the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, were occupied by Israel 19 years later and remain under Israeli military rule. So the aftermath of the Nakba, 30-plus massacres committed, 13,000 Palestinians killed, 530 villages destroyed, 750,000 people forcibly displaced. Israel declared on 78% of historic Palestine. That is what these people are commemorating. That is what they are celebrating when they say happy birthday, Israel. On top of that, we see a scene from just this week, eerily reminiscent of the images that you see on Nakba Day. This is silent for copyright purposes once again, but this looks like the Nakba never ended, as a lot of people often say. So this is going on this week. This is a Nakba happening right now. And once again, this is what almost every politician at the federal level in your country celebrates. They say happy birthday, Israel. That is what they are commemorating. And so, that kind of puts things in a bit of perspective. We've been covering the white South African refugee program and the racial antagonism.
Those poor people.
Yeah, the rank racial antagonism that the Trump administration is participating in right now. Talks of a white genocide in South Africa. Despite a white genocide going on, only 59 people took advantage of the opportunity to flee. And as you saw in those videos, a lot of those people were families, fairly large families. So overall, you have about 10 households, 10 to 12 households full of people. Clearly, that was done for the purpose of racial antagonism, making a point that, hey, we're here to stick up for the white people of the world. I find it to be a really disgusting gesture that is meant, like I said, to drive a wedge between white people and other peoples of the world. But when you look at this, when you look at how politicians of all colors, of both political parties, can record a video commemorating Israeli Independence Day, you see how, yes, Donald Trump really, pours salt on a lot of racial wounds. But at the end of the day, these people are all fucking racists for hire. That's what this is. This is just rank racism. This reminds me so much of when I found out that my kindergarten teacher was married to like this arch conservative, because I remember my kindergarten teacher reading us books about Martin Luther King when we were 5 or 6 years old. And then like 10 years later, I found out she's married to this politician who would probably spit on Martin Luther King's feet if he ever met him. And I'm like, you know what? You can present so much as one thing and be the exact opposite. That's what all these people are. Kristen Gillibrand recording a video. Happy Independence Day, Israel. Big lib, anti-racist Kristen Gillibrand. Doing this, celebrating the forcible displacement and mass murder of Arab people for the purpose of establishing a European colony in the Middle East. These people are now going to lecture you about racism. That's what jumps out to me about that, is just how this runs so deep. It just runs so deep. And it's a real force to be reckoned with, obviously. You saw those dollar figures. You saw the incredible amount of money. And that's step one, is bribery. People who don't get bribed get blackmailed. The people who can't be blackmailed, well, you fill in the blank for the rest. That's the level of control that is exerted upon these people. And it's just, that puts it all in perspective right there. Happy birthday, Israel. Happy birthday, Israel. On this week, they killed 464 Palestinians in the last 5 days, and they're wishing him a happy birthday.
Right. Yeah, they really don't care. This is how beyond any illusion of democracy we are. This is a deeply unpopular cause at this point.
Right.
If you were worried about the popular will, you would never go on record saying something like that. You wouldn't make a tape like that. The people don't run things. The lobbyists do. The corporations do. We're incidental. And yeah, from the Democrats, it's particularly stomach churning because these are the same people who have been lecturing you about raising an anti-racist baby.
Right. Exactly. Yep.
And yep, when the rubber meets the road, they're worried about white Ukrainians. They're worried about white coded Jews, and these are the people who could lay out for you the whole theory of settler colonialism.
Right.
But they need that as a deflection. This is where, with some ideas that you see come from Black conservatives, I'm sympathetic to a lot of those ideas because they are articulating something that certainly the Congressional Black Caucus are not going to tell you. Yeah, the Democratic Party used Black and brown people as props to deflect from their actual economic agenda, which tends to be extremely damaging to that community. Now, real Black leftists, obviously, will talk about this, but those voices are shut out of the conversation. You would think that all the Black leadership is on board with the Democratic Party, has no real criticism of it, because those are the only people who are elevated to go in front of the cameras.
Right. Exactly. Pete Sweet, thanks for the $10. Appreciate that. Trump won't let Netanyahu and Israel take full control of Gaza. Trump and his cronies got their eyes set on northern Gaza and the trillions in oil and want their payoff for genocide. Well, they are blockading it off into different parts, so it is possible that they will take half a loaf, meaning clear out as many people as will allow for them to take the north. That's possible, but you are talking about, I think, a mass displacement. I don't think Netanyahu will settle for any less, and I don't think Trump is going to bust his balls about that too much, because I think what he really wants to be able to do is say, hey, we can't attack Iran, but we can give you this. So I think he's going to have to give him something pretty big. That's what I think. I could be wrong, but that's what I think, based on everything we're seeing. Danny, thanks for the $5. Keaton, good luck on your boy band audition after tonight's show. Ha ha. What? All right, never mind. Dorian Marquez. So I was proven correct. It's a cool day today. It's 50 degrees here. What's it like in Buffalo? It's actually pretty cool today. So one of my last shows.
Yeah, it's cool up here. But I looked at New York City weather. That's a region-wide drop. It's cool down there too.
Yeah, it is. It is. I didn't know. Maybe it's cooler there because it's right on the water, right? But I guess
like
you're
in
getting
the 50s, I think.
Okay.
Sundays are our crunch day. I literally didn't leave the house today.
Yeah, these are our bunker days. Yeah, exactly. Dorian Marquis says, so I was proven correct. My fellow Gen Xer Russ's rant about the Trump versus Netanyahu clickbait was very accurate. Peasant minds. Thank you for that. In our defense and in some of our friends' defense, I don't think it was entirely clickbait, because I think the geopolitics of it, I do think Trump is trying to wiggle out of a war with Iran. So I do think there is seriousness to that. The Palestinian state stuff I never bought. But in terms of there's a reason he skipped Israel. I guess he's sending Vance there on Tuesday. Or maybe tomorrow even. I know he's sending Vance over to Israel. But I think the reason he skipped Israel is because he wants to, he doesn't want a war with Iran. So I think that that is I think a genuine rift.
There are certain quarters who overhype any slight indication that Trump might do something that's not completely horrible.
Right.
And they just completely go over the top, trying to make the whole conversation about that. Never mind the people being sent to torture prisons. If he just does this, he's the greatest ever.
Right.
Ever. Greatest president ever, which at that point, look, man, you make your choice about what you want to consume. I have no idea why you would take somebody seriously once they say something like that. Everyone can get things wrong.
Right.
There's getting things wrong, and there's getting things batshit crazy and maybe willfully wrong.
I hear this all started when James Carville stuck a tampon up Biden's ass. Ah, good one. Good one. Join the American Communist Party, acp.us. Thank you, Master Yoda. Ken Texican, thanks for the $50. Let's have a virtual cowbell for Ken Texican. Appreciate that, Ken Texican. Thank you very much. Says, I'm only here for a minute. Got to get some overnights out to some money changers up on the hill. Just wanted to say you guys rock on a completely other level, and thank you. Free Palestine. Thank you, Ken Texican.
Don't forget to turn over the tables in the temple.
That's right. Thank you for that. It's very kind of you, good sir. Okay. Michael Mike says, Russ, Cowbells, the Tractor Supply, 7600 4th Avenue, Niagara Falls. That's the closest. There's got to be a Tractor Supply.
How am I going to get up there, man? I rented a car for a couple weeks. I hardly used it. It was a waste of money.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Michael. But I mean, there's got to be a Tractor Supply. Tractor Supply would have them. Tractor Supply would have them. And there's got to be a Tractor Supply in Buffalo.
I mean, there are some new agey kind of places that I'm sure would have some kind of bells. Now, I mean, at this point, I'm going back in like a little less than 2 weeks.
You should go into. I hear Darryl Cooper manages the Tractor Supply in Buffalo. You should.
Oh, does he?
Yeah. I hear he's got transferred up there.
We could have a nice conversation.
You might say hello. That guy looks like he would manage a Tractor Supply. He would be like the walk-on.
That's part of his charm.
Yeah. He would be like the walk-on role in a sitcom if the Nazis had won World War II. He would be like Newman in Seinfeld,
right.
if not the Nazis had won.
No, he'd be the Kramer. He'd walk in.
He'd be like the UPS worker.
With the buzz cut instead of the wild.
No, he wouldn't be the mailman. He'd be like a very well-cut like UPS worker coming in with the brown, spick and span brown uniform with the cardboard box, placing it. Signature? That's it. No joke, please. That's what he would.
Okay. All right. So this is a fun one. So Donald Trump launched his meme coin, and boy, did people rejoice. My new official meme is here. It's time to celebrate everything we stand for. Winning! Well, not so much if you're a small investor, but we'll get to that. Join my very special Trump community. Get your Trump coin now. Okay, so I want to kind of get into how we got here. How did we get here? Trump, no doubt, is perfecting the art of the grift to a level that nobody before him has done. But he certainly didn't pave the road himself. He had many predecessors who led us to a day where somebody announcing that they're going to put their name on a coin by which anyone from any country could just bribe them via the coin, and they're not going to divest from interest in the coin, where someone like this would not just immediately be arrested. I think if you tried, obviously you didn't have this kind of thing, but if you tried to do something equivalent in, say, 1965, they'd probably send you to prison. You'd probably go to prison. They'd open up impeachment inquiries, right? I mean, there's no way that you could do this. But the frog in the pot of boiling water, gradually corruption got so normalized that now we have a president who could do this. So I'm going to blow your minds here, man, because I know a lot of you are probably familiar with the Harry Truman left the White House in poverty thing. And he very famously said this, probably the most famous quote from Harry Truman, other than the buck stops here. Show me a man that gets rich by being a politician, and I'll show you a crook. Now, it really depends on your perspective, whether you would consider Harry Truman a crook. There's no indication that he made his money dishonestly as far as it goes. But when they released Best Truman's papers pretty recently in 2021, in it was his handwritten will, and he actually left the White House with $611,000, which made him a very wealthy man at that time. Harry Truman conned us all. Turns out he played up his poverty to pressure Congress into creating a presidential pension. But he actually did not personally need that money. He also signed a $600,000 deal for his memoir. I'm surprised they paid that for memoirs back then.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's like a few million by today's standards, right?
Yeah, no, within a
Yeah.
few years of leaving the White House, he was a millionaire. And he already left, like, in pretty good financial shape. So, all that to say, hey, look, it's a capitalist society. People with capital are more likely to have the standing in their communities that would allow them to achieve high office. Even then, you're not going to get like the guy who, just works down at the feed store who becomes president, right? Like even in his time. But there's no indication he made it in a corrupt way. Now, where I would say the modern era of selling the presidency, of selling the prestige of the presidency for profit, of cashing in on the office, the modern era of that, I think, and if you disagree, let me know in the comments. I think it started with Reagan's Japan tour. Reagan took $2 million to go on a tour of Japan not long after he got out of office. And this, by today's corruption standards, sounds very quaint, but it was a huge scandal at the time. It really damaged his popularity post-presidency for a while. He threw the first pitch in their baseball series. Everyone was saying, that's a pretty good deal he got, $1 million a pitch because he threw 2 pitches. People didn't really do this kind of thing then. He got an agent, and his agent booked him gigs. Reagan came out of Hollywood. That was how he thought. You're a famous figure. You do appearances. You do gigs. You get paid to do gigs. You go appear places. He obviously didn't do stage and movies. He did speeches like they do now, but he was a trailblazer in this. Now we take this as a given that they're going to go do the lecture circuit and make a lot of loot. Nobody had ever cashed in like Reagan had, to the point that it was a big deal. It was very damaging for him. Reagan was burned on Japan precisely because the visit, despite some bold warnings he gave the Japanese on their trade practices, was widely interpreted as the shameless huckstering of a president's prestige. Now, remember also, this is when what we're going through with China now, that was the Japanese then. This was at the height of Japophobia, for lack of a better word. This is when Michael Crichton's Rising Sun comes out. This is, Gung Ho. We showed that in the intermission a couple of weeks ago. This Michael Keaton comedy about how the Japanese do everything better, right? They bought Rockefeller Center. Everybody freaked out about it. That was when he went to Japan. It was at the height of that. Quote, the thing with Japan that really pushed it over the edge, says the Reagan's 36-year-old novelist daughter, Patty Davis, who is estranged from her parents. The New York Times editorialized, former presidents haven't always comported themselves with dignity after leaving the Oval Office, but none have plunged so blatantly into pure commercialism. Now, this is really funny. Reagan had to sit there and grin when Donald Trump, of all people, made a crack about the Japanese millions from the podium at the Hebrew University Scopus Awards dinner at the Beverly Hilton in January. I cannot find any footage, believe me, I tried. And an Oregon Democratic Congressman, Peter DeFazio, alluded to the Japan trip when introducing a bill to eliminate an ex-president's pension for a year after any year in which he earns more than $400,000. It's unseemly, to say the least, when a former president cashes in on his prestige this way, and doubly so when he continues to receive his full presidential pension, DeFazio said. Do you see how corrupted our institutions have become? I'm not saying they were squeaky clean in 1990, but this sounds funny to us now. Like the system has gotten so corrupt, that corruption is so assumed. The idea of him trying to introduce legislation like that over that amount of money, It's like a joke, man. I mean, how much are the Obamas getting from Netflix? Like,
right.
But it was really Reagan who opened that door. Now, he might have opened it, but Slick Willie kicked it wide open. Okay, so Reagan, as unseemly as it was, and as much as it seemed gauche to be selling the prestige of his former presidency that way, it was his former presidency. Bill Clinton was the one who really started to perfect the art of soliciting pay for play, or the appearance of pay for play money, while still in office. So the big scandal of fundraising in the Clinton era was him selling nights at the Lincoln Bedroom. And again, he didn't actually personally profit. The money was fundraising to the DNC. But nonetheless, it was considered very unseemly. 66 people are known to have stayed there. A lot of Hollywood people. Barbara Streisand, no surprise. Steven Spielberg. A couple of people you wouldn't expect. Chevy Chase. Richard Dreyfuss. Right? Like you wouldn't expect. Dreyfuss, needless to say, has very different politics today.
Danny DeVito.
Did he?
Yeah. Danny DeVito told that really funny story about him and his wife having sex in the Lincoln bedroom. Yeah, Rhea Perlman having sex in the Lincoln bedroom.
I never heard that.
Yeah.
That's funny. Okay, so this article is from 2015. Over half of the people who had stayed in the Lincoln bedroom were still writing checks to the Clintons. They were writing for Hillary's campaign. The Clinton administration released records in 1997 showing that 938 guests had stayed at the mansion during the president's first term, dwarfing the 284 who stayed during the previous administration. And a Democratic National Committee memo showed that President Bill Clinton personally endorsed the idea of using sleepovers at the White House as a fundraising tactic. "Ready to start overnights right away," he wrote. At least another 404 guests stayed the night at the Clinton White House in Camp David after Hillary Clinton began campaigning for U.S. Senate in July 1999. So now this was a huge scandal at the time as well that haunted Al Gore's presidential campaign. This is not tied to his own campaign. This is also around the same time as the Lincoln bedroom scandal, mid-90s. In April 1996, Gore attended a fundraising luncheon at the Si Lai Buddhist Temple in Hacienda Heights, California. This event, which was organized by Maria Tsai and John Huang, raised $166,750 for the Democratic National Committee. Much of this money was raised illegally. The laws broken were far from being trivial or outdated. There were 55,000 in contributions laundered through monks and nuns who made the contribution in their own names and were then reimbursed by the temple from its general funds. At least 3 of the contributors were foreign nationals. In addition, the temple, which enjoys tax-exempt status as a religious institution, was used illegally for partisan politics. Insofar as the monks were reimbursed with temple funds that came from tax-free donations, American taxpayers indirectly subsidized Gore's fundraising effort. Okay, so yes, these were all very corrupt fundraising practices, but they were done on behalf of the DNC, of the Democratic Party. You still hadn't gotten to the level yet that they're directly stuffing money into their pockets. You'll get there before Trump. But at this point, it's really around campaign financing. Now, Clinton did also, on the way out the door, in the classy manner for which he was known, pardon a bunch of people who donated to his library, which, you know, a lot of people are trying to dismiss the guitar playing thing on the premise it's going to go to his library. Well, if that's not a benefit, then why did Clinton pardon people in exchange for that money? You got to remember, these people have enormous egos, none more so than Trump. They want to have the biggest, best presidential library of anybody. So that's a benefit to them. It's a benefit to them and their ego, even if it's not part of their personal estate. So you get to Hillary and her tenure as Secretary of State. Now you're getting more into personal benefit with the Clinton Foundation scam. So Hillary Clinton oversaw U.S. arms deals to Clinton Foundation donors. So you've got money going into a Clinton Foundation. In exchange, they're getting favors from the Secretary of State. That foundation is taking that money, doling it out to people who are connected to the Clintons. They're getting rewards for their loyalty. One hand washes the other. They're also drawing salaries, but it winds up being really a big payola scheme, and nothing demonstrated that better than the fact that the donations dried up as soon as Hillary Clinton's campaign was over, and they had to fold up the whole thing. So they talk a little bit about how Saudi Arabia got a deal with Boeing, and then they go on. IBT found that between October 2010 and September 2012, state approved $165 billion in commercial arms sales to 20 nations that had donated to the Clinton Foundation, plus another $151 billion worth of Pentagon brokered arms deals to 16 of those countries, a 143% increase over the same time frame under the Bush administration. The sales boosted the military power of authoritarian regimes such as Qatar, Algeria, Kuwait, the United Arab Emirates, and Oman, which, like Saudi Arabia, had been criticized by the department for human rights abuses. Isn't it funny how the same players keep coming up again and again in this context of bribery and corruption? Okay, so then you get to Obama. Now, the way Obama works the scam is he doesn't go after the bankers. Instead, he goes after the homeowners. He lets the bankers skate, and he's a smart guy. He gets his money after he gets out of office. He gets his payoff, right? So Obama gets, as soon as he got out of office, wasn't even shy about it, $1.2 million from 3 Wall Street speeches. You might remember Trevor Noah doing that monologue about how terrible and racist it was to expect Obama not to be corrupt. And then they wonder why we have Donald Trump as president now. So then Trump in his first term, a lot was made of this. So now you're starting to move towards the Trump model, where his family business owns a property where that business, which he will when he leaves it, even if he right now has it in a trust, is not directly involved. I mean, yeah, right. But technically is not involved. He's going to benefit from it when he gets out of office. His family is going to benefit from it. So now with the Trump Hotel, now you have a way where foreign dignitaries can almost directly bribe the president by putting money into a property that he and his family benefit from. So according to the reporting here, foreign officials spent more than $750,000 at the hotel during his first term. Government officials from Malaysia, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, Turkey, and the People's Republic of China collectively spent over $750,000 at the Trump International Hotel during his presidency, according to committee chairwoman, Representative Carolyn Maloney of New York. And she said, did so at sensitive times for those countries' relations with the United States. Look at that. Even China took money from China. And who could forget this guy? Party animal, Hunter. Who could forget Hunter? After years of denials, Hunter Biden finally acknowledged Joe was the big guy in $5 million China deal. If you're familiar with the case, you might remember the emails off Hunter Biden's laptop mentioned 10% for the big guy. So he admitted in his recent court cases that his father, everybody knew, was the big guy. How the Biden brand was used to rake in $30 million for Joe and the first family, detailed in James Comer's book. So, you know, if you look at this case, the Biden family had over 20, I believe it was, shell corporations set up, none of these really being legitimate businesses. Here you see a kind of flow chart of how they would get the money from the Chinese source, and it would go through various shell companies and corporations until finally Joe Biden's getting written a check for a very questionable loan by a family member, Sarah Biden. So, yeah, I mean, this was a scale of corruption that I don't know if it exceeds the Clinton Foundation, but it certainly equals it. And I think we could safely say that if this fact pattern belonged to a Republican, the media would be a lot more curious about this and a lot less quick to say, well, they didn't prove anything. I mean, it's pretty clear it was happening there. So we get to Trump. We get to Trump and his meme coin, which, just completely cuts out the middleman, and you could just bribe him directly. You don't need all of these elaborate shell companies, none of that. So Trump announced the launch of his meme coin with great enthusiasm.
Hawk meme coin is live!
Wow. He cleans up nice. Nice. So yeah, his Hawk meme coin went live, and he announces it, and of course the value goes through the roof. Most people who put money into it didn't benefit from that, but we'll get to that. So the price collapses. He juices it up again by announcing this competition for the people who buy the most Trump coin to get a dinner with him, which is coming up next week. Any of our viewers invited to this dinner?
Yeah. Did you guys submit?
Did you guys submit? Supposedly somebody rigged it in such a way that they got in with $1,200 in meme coin. I'm not sure if that's true though. So here's Chris Murphy. He's kind of made this his personal cause. Here's Chris Murphy explaining how the grift works.
Okay, so Trump coin, it's a meme coin. So it's got no independent value. Its price is just a function of demand. So if a lot of people want it because they like Donald Trump, then its price goes up. If nobody wants it, then its price plummets. So Trump launches this coin right before the inauguration. Why? Because he wants to make sure that his MAGA supporters, who are like wild with enthusiasm about the inauguration, would buy up a ton of the coin at the outset. It worked. Prices jumped from 18 cents to $75 a piece. And Trump's net worth on paper, it swelled to like $56 billion. And when it fell back down, the price of the coin fell back down to $17. A ton of his supporters who bought it at the top lost actual real money. Okay, but the crash, it doesn't matter to Trump because Trump gets a transaction fee. He's made $100 million, probably a lot more, just in trading fees. Well, many of his supporters have lost thousands of dollars. Okay, but that's not the worst. Trump holds back 80% of the total coin. And what he's going to do is release more when prices get high again. Because in addition to the transaction fees, he gets paid on that initial release of the coin. So how does the price get high again? Well, demand goes up. And who is in the best position to buy a ton of coin to drive up the price? Foreign governments and billionaire CEOs who have business interests before the Trump administration. Now, you might say that's illegal, but it's not. Nothing prevents, like a Russian oligarch, from buying a ton of Trump coin in order to put money directly into Trump's pocket. And even worse, we will never know if the buyer is a Russian oligarch or a Saudi prince or an oil company CEO, because it's all secret. In the first minute of trading, one buyer purchased around 6 million Trump coins, sending the price through the roof. One buyer was able to send the price through the roof before that buyer sold the entire supply for a 2-day profit of more than $100 million. Reporting suggests that in this case, the buyer was probably actually coming out of, wait for it, China. When Trump cashes out, he's not doing it through a mainstream exchange. He's doing it through unregulated Chinese exchanges. Why? Because he's hiding something, either the source of the money or the people connected to him that are getting the payments. because on a mainstream exchange, you might have a modicum of background checks done on the cash outs. The Chinese exchanges are totally dark. So while the Trump coin may seem like some silly, hard to understand online fad, it could end up being the most fundamental corruption in the history of the presidency. It's as if Trump is posting his Venmo or his Cash App handle and inviting corporations and foreign governments to just send him cash in secret.
Yep. So, Key bono, who benefits? Not you, motherfucker. Not you. 58 crypto wallets have made millions on Trump's meme coin. 764,000 have lost money, data shows.
It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
You ain't in it. But you know how Trump makes his money? By convincing lonely, desperate, broken, mostly male people that they're in it. That's how they get them to buy it. That's how they get them to buy it. This whole thing, this is MAGA in a nutshell. Right? He's going to tell you, yeah, come on, fight with me. 58 people benefit. The rest of you get skata. Skata. My Greek friends will know what that means. About 764,000 wallets that purchased President Donald Trump's Trump meme coin have lost money on the investment, according to fresh data shared with CNBC by blockchain analytics firm Chain Analysis. Most of the wallets that lost money held smaller amounts of the token, according to the firm's on-chain analysis. Crypto wallets are accounts that store the keys you need to access and use your cryptocurrency holdings. Chain Analysis said that while 2 million wallets have bought into the token, 58 wallets made more than 10 million apiece, totaling roughly 1.1 billion in gains. It's what they call the old pump and dump. Big players get in early and get out early and leave you holding the bag. Interest in the coin spiked more than 50% after the project's website promised the top 220 holders of a seat at a black tie optional dinner with the president. The Trump event, set for May 22nd at the President's Trump National Golf Club, Washington, D.C., includes a reception for the 25 wallets with the largest coin balance, along with a White House tour. Lawmakers are now formally investigating whether the Trump meme coin and a related crypto venture called World Liberty Financial, which sends 75% of revenue to the Trump family, constitute a direct conflict of interest for the president. Only 20% of the token's total supply is currently in circulation. The remaining 80%, reportedly controlled by the Trump Organization and affiliated entities, is locked under a 3-year vesting schedule. Public disclosures say insiders have agreed not to sell their allocations for another few months. Even with their tokens under vesting restrictions, insiders are earning substantial revenue. Since January, more than $324 million in trading fees have been routed to wallets tied to the project's creators, according to Chainalysis.
Chainalysis must be.
The token's code automatically directs a cut of each transaction to these addresses, allowing the team to profit from ongoing activity. So understand here, they make money coming and going. They make money when you buy. They make money when you sell. They're making money off every transaction that you make. They make money off the pump. They make money off the dump. It's the perfect scam. It's the perfect scam. And you know what? Chris Murphy just laid it out. It's actually legal. Nothing against the law there, right? So here's a little chart of heartbreak. Chart of heartbreak for a bunch of retail investors that thought Donald Trump cared about them.
Well, I thought that was the white South African population by you. Sorry. I misinterpreted that.
All right, so he announces the meme coin shoots right up, and all the insiders sell, and all the bag holders, Donnie, I thought you loved me. Oh, no. Then he announces the dinner, right? You see, it never goes back to that, but you see that little spike there, right? So then he announces the winners, and it comes down a little bit. You got a little dead cat bounce. But you could see, actually, Bloomberg did an analysis of the foreign purchases for this dinner. Huge token purchases, greater than 100,000 in April. You got 2 purchases here worth a combined 3.6 million by a foreign-based wallet hours after the announcement. 3 purchases worth a combined 1.5 million. 7 worth 5.2. 5 worth a combined 4.5 million. So how much faith do these purchasers have in the Trump coin? Well, not very much, because they all dumped it pretty quickly. Trump meme coin dinner to be held May 22nd. The top 220 Trump holders, mostly non-Americans, are invited to a dinner with the president. The nature of the pseudonymous, I'm doing great tonight, pseudonymous wallets raises questions about the true identities and motivations of the token's largest holders. And they have a list, but it's all anonymous. So what they do with those coins? They dumped them. They dumped them right away. They know they're garbage. They know it's a scam. They know it's worthless. They bought enough of these coins to get into that dinner, and then they dumped them right away. Trump dinner contest winners may have made up to 2.6 million each from Trump gains. Most VIP wallets are now empty after the pump. After the pump comes the dump. An analysis by Bloomberg revealed that 19 of the top 25 wallets are almost certainly owned by individuals operating outside the U.S. Justin Sun, who openly shared that he bought 75 million worth of the Trump family's World Liberty Financial Token, a digital coin where 75% of proceeds go to Trump-related entities, is believed to be at the top of the Trump meme token leaderboard. Sun, who was born in China, is the crypto entrepreneur behind the Tron blockchain and is in talks with the SEC to resolve civil fraud charges. Now, we're going to do a second part of this on Tuesday, dealing with Trump and Witkoff's son's tour of the Middle East, sucking up investors for their dodgy Tether coin. And one of the things they're doing is integrating their Tether coin with Tron. So 75 million paid off for them. Memecoin, a Singapore-based crypto network that was vocal in its quest to secure a spot at the Trump dinner, landed in second place with an investment of 18 million. An Australian crypto entrepreneur also reportedly made the cut. Freight Technologies, a Houston-based logistics firm that trades on the NASDAQ and has a market cap of just over 2.3 million, bought 2 million worth of the Trump tokens to influence U.S.-Mexico trade policy, according to a release. CEO Javier Salgas described the move as a strategic push to, quote, champion free and fair trade across the U.S.-Mexico border. Freight Technologies finished in 250th place, missing the cut for the dinner. That's got to hurt. That's got to hurt, especially if the rumor of the guy who got in for $2,000 is true.
Got to draw the line somewhere.
Got to draw the line. So this is, I'll get into this more on Tuesday, but Witkoff and Don Jr., business partners in this whole meme coin scam, did a whole sit-down talk with Justin Sun, mediating and emceeing the event. Nothing to see there, man. Nothing to see there. So here is Washington's favorite sugar baby since Dolly Madison, Carolyn Levitt, talking about responding to the Bulwark's reporter about how there is absolutely nothing corrupt about this.
I'm in Carolina. The president posted another ad this week for his Trump meme coin. The group that's running that coin is encouraging people to buy in order to win a dinner this month with the president. Why is the president planning to attend a dinner for the top investors in his coin?
Look, the president is abiding by all conflict of interest laws. The president has been incredibly transparent with his own personal financial obligation throughout the years. The president is a successful businessman, and I think, frankly, it's one of the many reasons that people reelected him back to this office.
There are at least some people who are buying this coin who seem to view it as an opportunity to influence the president's views. There was a logistics company this week that said they would buy $20 million in the coin in order to advocate for free trade between the U.S. and Mexico. If buyers are buying for that reason, are they wasting their money?
Look, I can assure you the president acts with only the interests of the American public in mind, putting our country first and doing what's best for our country, full stop. That's his intention, and that's what he's focused on. Chris?
Wow. Wow. I mean, I got to say, she's good at the job, given what the job requires. So here's Mike Johnson being asked a similar question.
You were very critical of President Biden and his family's foreign business dealings. You supported an impeachment inquiry as a result of it. Are you equally concerned about President Trump's family's business dealings, especially given the fact that he is in a region now where his family has billions of dollars of investments in Doha and Saudi Arabia, and the fact that he has a crypto business now where he's auctioned off access to the White House for the highest bidder in his meme coin?
Look, there are authorities that police executive branch ethics rules. I'm not an expert in that. My expertise is here in the House. Okay, I'll say that the reason that many people.
Now, what he's not mentioning is the agency that would technically be charged with overseeing this would be the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. You remember Humpty Dumpty, Mark Andreessen going on Joe Rogan, telling you about how that we had to get rid of that agency? It's not because they were woke. They actually introduced court cases to defend Christian organizations that had been debanked, to protect them from debanking. It's because of this. It's because they want to live in a world where they can do this shit with absolutely no consequence and no government oversight.
Refer to the Bidens as the Biden crime family is because they were doing all this stuff behind curtains, but in the back rooms. They were trying to conceal it, and they repeatedly lied about it, and they set up shell companies, and the family was all engaged in getting all on the dole. Whatever the President Trump is doing is out in the open.
Okay, look at the guy in the back.
And the family was all engaged because they were doing all this stuff behind curtains, but in the back rooms. They were trying to conceal it, and they repeatedly lied about it, and they set up shell companies, and the family was all engaged in getting all on the dole. Whatever the President Trump is doing is out in the open. They're not trying to conceal anything.
But Mr. Speaker, the investment in the meme coin, those folks are not transparent. We do not know who those people are.
I don't know anything about the meme coin thing. I don't know. I can just tell you that, I mean, President Trump has had nothing to hide. He's very upfront about it, and there are people who watch all the ethics of that. But I mean, I've got to be concerned with running the House of Representatives,
Is it
and that's what I do.
congressional oversight, though? That's the congressional responsibility, is it not?
Congress has oversight responsibility, but I think, so far as I know, the ethics are all being followed. So, yes, sir.
Down in Louisiana, we put casinos on boats. That's all I know.
Yeah. No. Well, so this is how in 36 years you get from people being shocked that the beloved former president, not even still in office, former President Ronald Reagan would take $2 million to throw a couple of baseballs and meet with some former Japanese prime ministers. They were horrible. It was a scandal at the time. Now you have got a president who, yes, is using a worthless coin, worthless asset as a funnel for bribery. But we know this money is coming mostly from foreign sources because it's mostly coming through Binance, which does not take U.S. purchasers. It only takes purchasers from outside the U.S. So you are having all of this just bribery in broad daylight. And again, on Tuesday, we'll get into the other side of this that relates to the plane and purchasing the Tether coin. That's a whole other dimension of this. I mean, what Johnson is saying is right in a sense. Yeah, they're bringing the corruption right out into the daylight, right out into the open. Yeah, we're taking all of this money through this shadowy meme coin, through exchanges where you can't find out who these people are, but we know that most of it is foreign money. And you know what? This technology is also new. Technically, there are not any real laws against what they're doing. There really aren't, as far as we know. You know, they're opening up an investigation here, but it may be a case where something it should be illegal, but it's not. I mean, it technically looks like a violation of the emoluments clause, but is it? Does that apply to a meme coin taking bribery in that way? It may really be the perfect crime. Like, he may not be doing anything illegal, but is it obviously bribery in broad daylight? Is it the buying of the presidency? Let's put it this way. I so often have had to say to libs over the last few years, okay, squint a little and pretend that it's Trump and tell me if you see it now. So for anyone who's going to defend this, they're going to say squint a little bit and pretend it's Biden. What would you be saying if Hunter Biden were running around the Middle East with Sasha Obama and setting up meme coin exchanges with Middle Eastern governments? What would you say about that?
Yeah, I mean, well, it doesn't sound like it's illegal, and crypto and meme coin is really the perfect grift for a cult leader, because it has no intrinsic value. It only derives value from people's devotion to the cult leader. So if you're a cult leader and you have tens of thousands of people who are willing to plunk down some money for this, well, that gives it some value in their mind, right? So if you're a cult figure, it's the perfect thing to sell. Hey, I found this great idea. It's this stuff. It has no real value. Except, insofar as how much people love me. And there are a lot of people who love me very much. And so I'm just going to sell that. Can't lose. And it's not a crime. I mean, I don't see what's illegal about it. This is a very Trump-like thing. This explains why he cozied up to them. He probably saw a real opportunity. Wait, so we could charge all this money for nothing? As long as people love me, they'll pay all this money for literally nothing. Like those stupid fucking things. What were those trading cards? He's like, if you buy...
Yeah, the NFTs.
The NFTs. Yeah. It's $99 per NFT, which is literally just a cartoon image of him on a screen. If you buy all 15 of them for $1,500, we send you a physical card. Like if you plunk down $1,500, we'll send you a little piece of cardboard. Like, it's perfect. We should do a meme coin. Just kidding. We're not going to do that.
We should.
Yeah.
We should. But next week we'll have it ready. We'll have a mock-up. This is what's so sad about it. It's the monetization of the same tactics he used to gain political power. He took a lot of people who feel hopeless, who feel disenfranchised, didn't offer them anything that's really going to improve their lives, but offered them the illusion of belonging.
Right.
And they are so desperate for that they're willing to settle for it because it's more than what they had before, which was just the contempt of the liberal class. Yeah, no, I like you. Buy my meme coin. I love you. I love you. Buy more meme coin. I'll love you even more.
Exactly. That's all it takes. That's all it takes. So, well done. All right, we're 2541. In the year 2525. And well over 666 likes. We're at 791. Looking good there. Smash that like button, everybody. Smash that subscribe button and smash that follow button. All right, folks, we have a new dissident sponsor that I want to tell you guys about.
I got to step away. I'll be right back.
So here on Do Dissidents, we often highlight artists who forge their own path, and John Koah, known as Koah, Koah, has been doing just that for a long time. A seasoned solo acoustic rock artist and guitarist with over 2 decades performing and years playing live in Los Angeles. Koa is a longtime listener of this show, Do Dissidents, and his ambitious forthcoming 34-song collection, A to Z, is both a social commentary and a personal one, a powerful expression of his unique voice and a musical response to the times we're living in. This extensive project, with Koa playing all the instruments and mixing the tracks for a unique retro modern sound, unfolds alphabetically. A to Z will feature some rarely performed covers such as Dr. My Eyes, Bron Your R Stomp. Sorry, I never pronounced that right, but that is one of my favorite Zeppelin tunes. I love that song, and I love that album. The Led Zeppelin 3 is one of my favorites of theirs. And Give Me Shelter, available on Koa's website, koa.audio. While awaiting the A to Z album, you can hear Koa's 2 latest studio singles, Bob Dylan's Like a Rolling Stone and the pop-leaning Core. So you can find him on Spotify, Apple, X, and YouTube as John Koa. His website is koa.audio, but Jake just put up the 2 links. So if you check out his YouTube channel, youtube.com/@JohnKoa, that takes you to the YouTube channel. So he's got some tracks there. I encourage you to go and give those a listen, and please subscribe to the channel. And then, Jake, can you put up that other link, please? Thank you. That's dodissidents.com/Koa. That takes you to his website where you can find links to all of his socials. So we're going to be promoting the album when it comes out, but John has a kind of an extended partnership with us in the works. So before the album comes out, please go check his stuff out. It's important to support our dissident artists. There's some great tunes there, and some really good covers on this. Some really good covers on this. I'm looking forward to hearing this when it comes out. So please, dodissidents.com/Koa. That takes you to his website, and you can find him, like I said, Spotify, Apple Music, Twitter, and YouTube. So please go and check that out. dodissidents.com/Koa. All righty. Let's go here to Me Shoot Skeet. Supposedly, my Congresswoman Grace Meng received $375,000 from AIPAC. How dare she not wish Israel happy birthday? Oh, was she not included in that? You should write her office. Say, I just watched the Happy Birthday Israel video.
We should tell Batar. They'll get her deported.
Yeah, right. Send a message to Canary Mission. Hey, they gave her all this money. She didn't even wish him a happy birthday. What the fuck is wrong with her? Chris Bedford, thanks for the $5. Hey, guys, please interview Jill Stein's former running mate, Dr. Butch Ware, candidate for California governor. Is that governor's election this November? Yeah, I know he's running for governor. Is that 2025 or 2026 coming up? I'm not sure. What's kind of going on here? Oh, that scroll is... It was stuck. Now it's unstuck. Okay. Pardon me. Wasim Garani, thanks for the $27.99. Appreciate that very much. Israel, what's going on with this thing? Israel are now massacring patients at Indonesian hospital, and a Palestinian girl named Named Zine, is on a phone calling for help like Hin Rajab. Disgusting, as Israel said they will now allow aid in. That's right. They said they were going to allow aid in. That broke like right before we went on. They said they were allowing limited aid in thanks to U.S. pressure, but that's horrible. Thank you for that. Thank you for letting us know. Reverend Edmund Balella, President Trump is bringing authoritarianism and kleptocracy. It's a revolution, just not the one so many anticipated. Thank you for your show. Thank you, Reverend. Appreciate that, and you are correct about that. David, thanks for the $49.99. Let's have a cowbell for David. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Says, thanks for making me laugh through the chaos. Well, thank you for being here with us, David, thank you for that generous donation. That was very kind of you. Okay, I'm going to let YouTube Studio restart because it was giving me a... The YouTube tech has not been great lately. They've not been great lately. They just updated their ad thing because someone was complaining. Someone was complaining on one of the clips that they're putting ads very often now. They just updated their ad distribution thing. So yeah, we don't control where they put the ads, so we apologize about that. But you can get ad-free replays of all our streams if the ad bothers you by going to dodissidents.locals.com and becoming a member. So that's one way to get around those ads.
Everyone says it's terrible. It's a failing platform. Everybody says that.
Yeah, right.
Everybody says it's awful. It doesn't work.
Truth Social is where it's at now. That's where people are going to go watch videos. J.E. Turner says, supposedly Candace has exonerated Harvey Weinstein in her new series. Thoughts on his guilt or innocence? Wow, that's a hot take. I never heard that one.
I watched her Macron's trans wife series, and she seemed to have proved it pretty damn well.
Yeah.
Just the fact that they're not suing her to within an inch of her life,
right,
is very revealing. So yeah, that's a crazy story. The Weinstein, look, man, I don't want to just like knee jerk judge it. I haven't seen any of it. There's lots and lots of people who say that he was like this.
Oh, so I knew a couple people who said who had interactions with him who said he was a creep. I didn't know anyone who said he was a criminal, but I knew people who said, yeah, he's a creep. Yeah.
So
invites me to a screening, thinking there's going to be a lot
me.
of people there. It turns out it's him with a tablecloth and a bottle of wine, and I knew what was up.
I know someone he assaulted. He showed up. She was hired for like a babysitting gig or something.
Yeah.
And he fucking answered the door in his underwear and a bathrobe. So it would take a lot to convince me that Harvey Weinstein's an upstanding citizen.
Yes, that is a tough lift there, heavy lift, and no pun intended. Funny how easily people lapped up the Trump is mad at Netanyahu line as if they weren't correctly calling out his bullshit when Biden leaked shit like that to the media. Truly pathetic shit. I mean, look, I don't doubt that he was mad at him. Like, I don't doubt that they've gotten into it on the phone. I don't think anybody really likes Netanyahu. I don't doubt that they had a fight and an argument, or that they maybe were on bad terms for a little while.
I mean, as I recall, the way we covered the Biden leaks was that they put those leaks out there because they want to create the impression of.
But there's some tension.
There's some kind of that's how we covered that at that time.
Right. Everybody voting for the Israeli Eurovision contestant gets 50% off Shmuley butt plugs promo code by G. Thank you. Killer Hitton says East River Regatta was next fucking level this year. Too soon. Yeah, no. One of our friends of our show, Joey Holtz, who did the labor experiment that went viral a few years ago, he is a sailor, and he apparently took a picture right next to that boat 10 years ago. 12 years ago. What am I talking about?
I didn't realize it was an old picture.
Yeah, I sent you a picture of Joey. Yeah, no, that was an older picture. Yeah. John in Minnesota, did I see you read that we have frozen, stolen $2 billion in Libyan assets? Add them to the list, I guess. Is there anyone in countries wants to ditch the dollar? Yep, of course. I heard Trump is going to recognize Tiffany. Oh, good one. Good one. Free shit. Thank you for that. Okay, folks, here we go. We're going to move right on along with the program. All right, folks, you remember this little step back in time to February 8th, 2024, when special counsel Robert Hur, remember this, simpler times, described Biden as an elderly man with a poor memory in eyebrow-raising report. So this was Joe Biden's documents handling case, which was investigated by a prosecutor who ultimately declined to press charges because they thought doing so would be fruitless, since it's hard to establish criminal intent when the defendant doesn't know what year it is. That's the long and the short of it. Special counsel Robert Hur on Thursday released a 388-page report on President Biden's retention of classified material, finding the president frequently showed limitations with his memory and recall. While the report concluded no charges should be brought against the president, its language describing Biden, 81, is likely to be campaign fodder for Republicans who have repeatedly raised questions about the president's ability to serve. How ridiculous. In opting not to bring charges, Hur, who was appointed by former President Trump to serve as U.S. Attorney for the District of Maryland in 2017, cited the shortage of evidence, but also how Biden would present himself to a jury. We have also considered that at trial, Mr. Biden would likely present himself to a jury, as he did during our interview of him, as a sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory, Hur wrote. The special counsel at one point in the report wrote that Biden did not remember when he was vice president, forgetting when his term ended, and in another instance, forgot when his term began. Hur reported Biden did not remember when his son Beau had died, and his memory appeared hazy when speaking about a debate over Afghanistan that was critical to his memoirs. So if you remember, Joe Biden came out and gave a brief statement to the press in response to this report coming out at the time, where he took real issue with this man suggesting that he had forgotten when his son had passed away.
In reference that I don't remember when my son died. How in the hell dare he raise that? Frankly, when I was asked the question, I thought to myself, it wasn't any of their damn business. There's even reference.
Okay, we're going to see that in a second. Kamala Harris comes out and recites the script that this was gratuitous, which is a ridiculous word to use, which we'll talk about in a bit.
By that prosecutor, gratuitous. The comments that were made by that prosecutor, gratuitous, inaccurate, and inappropriate. The way that the president's demeanor in that report was characterized could not be more wrong on the facts and clearly politically motivated.
Yeah, well, here we go. Now we have the tapes. Alex Thompson tweets out exclusive.
So wasted.
Exclusive.
She liked her Chardonnay, that one.
Oh, yeah. Axios obtained the audio of Robert Hur's 2023 interviews of Biden, which show repeated mental lapses as he struggles to remember words and dates amid long, uncomfortable pauses. Biden White House didn't release it last year. Listen below. Now, Alex Thompson is the co-author with Jake Tapper of this new book, Original Sin, the expose of the cover-up of Biden's decline. Funny that his outlet has these tapes, right? I mean, all of this goes to show that they had this evidence far before they released it to the public. Here's Axios dropping this audio. So we'll listen to some of this where you can hear for yourself, finally, for the first time, what Robert Hur was referring to when he described Biden as an elderly man with a poor memory.
Chambers Road, and there were documents related to the Penn Biden Center or the Biden or the cancer booster shot or your book. Where did you keep papers that related to those things that you were actively working on?
Well, I don't know. This is what, 2017, 18, that area?
Yes, sir.
Remember, in this time frame, my son is either been deployed or is dying. And so...
Let's talk about 2 years after his son died.
It was... and by the way, there were still a lot of people at the time when I got out of the Senate that were encouraging me to run in this period, except the president. It's not a mean thing to say, but he just thought that she had a better shot.
I was talking about Hillary. I apologize.
The presidency than I did, and so I hadn't at this point, even though I'm at Penn, I hadn't walked away from the idea that I might run for office again. If I ran again, I'd be running for president. And so what was happening though, what month did Bo die? May 30th, 2015. Was it 2015 he died?
Maybe 2015.
I think it's 2015.
I'm not sure the months are, but I think that was
yeah.
That's right, Mr. President.
And what's happened in the meantime is that Trump gets elected in November of 2016.
See, I mean, he doesn't know any. I mean, it's like it's all over the place. I couldn't even tell if he was talking about 2016 or 2020.
Yeah,
seems to confuse those elections. Yeah. I mean, so this is just, and I have to say, you know, my mother has Parkinson's. This is how she sounds sometimes. This sounds like a guy with Parkinson's.
Right.
I mean, this sounds exactly the way my mother sounds at times. Not all the time, but sometimes when she's having a bad day, this is exactly how she sounds. And it's not every day she sounds like that, which explains why some days he had okay days. Right.
All right. So, why did I have 2017 here?
That's when you left office, January.
Okay. But that's when Trump gets sworn in.
Right.
January.
Right. Correct.
Okay, yeah. Correct. And in 2017, Bo had passed, and
2 years prior.
It's painful.
Yeah. Like, I think Joe Biden's a war criminal, belongs in prison, and this is still painful.
the genesis of the book and the title, Promise Me Dad, was I know you're all close with your sons and daughters, but Bo was like my right arm, and that was my left. These guys were a year and a day apart, and they could finish each other's sentences. And Bo, I used to go home on the train in the period that I was still in the Senate. Anyway.
Okay, so you're a prosecutor. You're investigating this guy, trying to figure out if there's criminal intent, and you have an interview like that. The irony of this, and what makes the way the Democrats and the media went after this prosecutor so despicable, and what makes it so nonsensical that they called his report gratuitous, is that it was anything but gratuitous. The guy was saying the main reason I'm not pursuing charges is because I can't establish criminal intent. Why can't I establish criminal intent? Because the guy is lost. You can't establish criminal intent. So it's not gratuitous. That's material to the report. If Joe Biden was of sound mind and he deliberately mishandled classified information, then you might have a case. He's saying, I don't have a case because when I interviewed this guy, he was obviously completely lost. We can't prosecute a guy who doesn't even know what year his son died, when he was convinced to run for office, where he was when he was like, it was obviously just a total disaster. Here's a concise version of Biden's recounting of the interview contrasted with the relevant moments. This is damning. This is put together, I assume, by Clipkeeper here.
Paid to some language in the report about my recollection of events.
Where did you keep papers that related to those things that you were actively working on?
Well, I don't know. There's even reference that I don't remember when my son died. This is what, 2017, 18, that area? How in the hell dare he raise that? Remember, in this time frame, my son is either been deployed or is dying. Frankly, when I was asked the question, I thought to myself, it wasn't any of their damn business. 1 month ago, died. Got May 30th, 2015 he died.
I guess he ain't going to be going back on The View again.
I don't need anyone. I don't need anyone to remind me when he passed away or passed away.
He seemed to clearly be confusing when Obama discouraged him from running because Hillary wanted to run, and the 2020 campaign, where he was recruited into the race to stop Bernie Sanders, which was the only reason why he was there. And he succeeded in doing that. And once again, the Democrats' obsession with stopping Bernie Sanders paved the way for Donald Trump. So Western Lensman compiled some receipts here. The first one, Joe and Mika. Here's Joe going off on this prosecutor. Wow, did these age like milk?
A pasture he will walk off into.
I don't know.
Just kind of wander off and say, well, you know, and Joe Biden, I noticed he didn't really tie his tie well. The tie knot suggested that maybe he has arthritis in his left thumb.
Where are you going with this?
I'm just saying this guy says such random shit about
Joe,
he's a kindly old man who could not remember his son's birthday. Like, he wandered off into a pasture here and, you know, maybe Arnold the Pig led him there. I don't know. No, you should apologize for her because
I shouldn't have asked.
I don't know exactly Like, does he hope he gets a judgeship? I think he does.
Yeah.
I think he hopes he gets a judgeship. If Donald Trump gets elected again, he's trying out because he humiliated himself with that display.
Jackie Alamany has actual reporting on this.
He humiliated himself with that display.
I mean, they really are at this point. If Christopher Guest made a movie about pundits,
yeah,
Joe and Mika would be in it.
It would be like Jennifer Tilly and Fred Willard. We would play Mika and Joe. Yeah, that would be them. They're the Jennifer Tilly and Fred Willard of morning hosts. Well, here's Jamie Raskin piling on Robert Hur as well. Also a clip found by Western Lensman here.
Alarms about whether President Biden is fit to serve another. Does this raise alarms about whether President Biden is fit to serve another term in office?
Well, undoubtedly, that's what Robert Hur, who comes from my state, he's a Maryland Republican. Undoubtedly, that's what he intended to do with those ridiculous cheap shots. I just spent an hour with President Biden and the entire Democratic caucus where he regaled and entertained everyone for an hour and went through all of the extraordinary accomplishments of his administration, including the Inflation Reduction Act. We've got the best economy in the world right now, the creation of millions and millions of jobs, just an extraordinary record to run on. So they're going to come up with some cheap shots like that.
And finally, cheap shots, right. Here's Adam Schiff, once again, gratuitous. So here he is grilling Robert Hur.
The rules, Mr. Hur, what is in the rules is you don't gratuitously do things to prejudice the subject of an investigation when you're declining to prosecute. You don't gratuitously add language that you know will be useful in a political campaign. You were not born yesterday. You understood exactly what you were doing. It was a choice. You certainly didn't have to include that language. You could have said vis-a-vis the documents that were found at the university, the president did not recall. There is nothing more common. You know this. I know this. There is nothing more common with a witness of any age when asked about events that are years old to say, I do not recall. Indeed, they're instructed by their attorney to do that if they have any question about it. You understood that.
Okay, clearly now, looking at that tape, listening to that audio, this was not an instance of Joe Biden simply saying, I do not recall. This was Joe Biden trying to piece together the timeline of major, profound events in his life. The death of your child, the decision to run for president. This is not him saying, I don't recall a detail about a phone call from 4 years ago. This is like basic chronicling of major events in your life. And once again, gratuitous. He mentioned that to get your guy off the hook. That's what he did. He mentioned that he had no brain left because the implication was if he had a brain left, I could establish criminal intent. And instead, they go after this guy, and it is just amazing the dishonesty and the incompetence of this party. Like, they are such buffoons and liars. It's not one or the other. No, it's both. They're a bunch of grifting careerist liars, and they're also unbelievably incompetent. Like, this is a combination of those two things.
Okay, I gotta say,
they're like the Lady Killers gang in the Coen Brothers remake. Yeah, that's like what the Democratic Party.
They're the gang that couldn't shoot straight.
Yeah.
This is the impression that I get from all of the reporting we've gotten about the Biden family. It looks like Joe Biden was basically the Ray Donovan of this family. He was the one who made it, who was successful, that everyone sucked off of for their daily bread all these years. And he knowingly facilitated that. What happened as he began to lose his mind, there was already this whole network of grifting and money making and managing things around Joe Biden before he lost his mind. Once he lost his mind, those people just took over. Like, he was not president. The people around him, like Jill Biden, were president.
Right.
We know from reports, man, they kept even the kitchen staff away from him so the people wouldn't see this. that this is what was actually going on with him. I think the way the Biden grift was structured made it very easy to transition to him just, okay, Joe, so go out there and say this.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. I think all that is true. And on top of that, and this I would say, look, I mean, like I said, I think the guy's a war criminal. I think he belongs, in prison for, facilitating this genocide in broad daylight. As a father, I can sympathize with this, that I think he was really broken in large part by the death of his son and in no shape to run for president. Chuck Todd said this. Chuck Todd said, I wish I had found this video. We did it so long ago and it wasn't a major piece of video, so I couldn't find it. So his son dies. He has this other son who's the black sheep of the family, this ne'er-do-well with drug problems and everything. Like, you know what? At that point, you probably just stand by your family and don't run for president. Like at that point, the trauma of losing one kid, having to kind of be there in some way for this other kid who's had a lot of problems in his life, you probably want to step back from politics and take care of your family at that point. At that point, it's a very selfish choice to even run for president. Chuck Todd said that. Chuck Todd, who's pretty much a Democrat Party apparatchik, said that. And I think there's some truth to that. But of course, they had this problem, which was this Democratic socialist from Vermont is about to run on a platform of universal health care, and he's going to win the nomination unless we stop him. And Joe Biden was the only person with the clout and the name ID as the former vice president with this connection to Obama to stop him. And so it had to be him. And cut to where we are now. That's what I mean. Like, they're such sleaze and they're such buffoons, that they really, and by they, I mean the Democratic Party brass, the movers and shakers, they did this to this country and the world by insisting that it could not be Bernie. That's what this comes down to at the end of the day. Yeah.
Yeah. And it also, looking at the choice they made going into 2024, obviously they knew this. So what were they thinking? They're so incompetent that they said, you know what? He has the advantage of incumbency, and we'll just kind of, prop him up with whatever drugs they give him. And, once he gets elected, he'll just step down. I'm sure they were planning on him stepping down and Kamala taking over. I'm sure that was the plan.
This time, of course.
The one thing they were right about that went into that is that she couldn't win on her own.
Right.
So I figure, we'll just prop him up long enough. But the fact that they thought that would work, if you saw this, and I'm sure they did, and even if you didn't personally, you knew people who did. If you were a Democratic insider, you knew about this. There was no way they did not know. And you thought you could get this guy across the finish line? You didn't think something like that was ever going to happen on the debate stage?
Right.
3 debates? Like, you didn't think there's a good chance his brain would melt?
Yeah.
But there you go.
There you go. That's right. So in response to these tapes coming out, the Robert Hur tapes coming out, there is, of course, a big pile-on of Joe Biden for choosing to run again now that it's too late to do anything about it. So Beto O'Rourke...
it's all his fault.
Yeah. Beto O'Rourke really wants you to know how pissed off he is at Joe Biden for having run again and failed this country. So here he is on Pod Save America.
Biden should not, just to be clear, Biden should not have run again. And to be even more
it's very
clear,
brave of
he
you now,
failed
Beto.
this country in the most important job that he had. In fact, the entire rationale for his presidency the first time and the rationale he tried to sell us on for his attempt to run for re-election. Only I can stop Donald Trump. And he failed to do that. And it's not just you and me, but our kids and grandkids and the generations that follow that might have to pay the price for this. We might very well lose, the greatest country that this world has ever known. And it might be in part because of the decision that Biden and those around him made to run for re-election instead of having an open primary where the greatest talent that the Democratic Party can muster could be on that stage, to have a competition of ideas and track record and vision, and really excite not just Democrats, but the people of this country who did want change. I mean, if anything was clear coming out of 2024, they wanted change. And to literally run the oldest guy who many people accurately, to your point, said, I just don't think he is capable of doing this. And I know that I saw the Congresswoman and the Congressman on CNN saying these run in circles around us in the briefing rooms behind closed doors. It doesn't add up with what I'm seeing with my own lying eyes. I think that credibility problem is going to persist up until when Democrats say we fucked up and we made a terrible mistake.
Well, yeah, you definitely have a big credibility problem moving forward. There's no doubt about that.
That is a very brave stand to take now.
Yes, exactly. Wow, bravo, Beto. Should get up on a picnic table and say
jumping out
that.
In front of the parade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So friend of the show,
the Great White Hope.
That's right.
That never was.
That's right. So friend of the show, Professor Anthony Zenkus, said, so in response to this tweet here by PodSave, we radical leftists were saying this for years. And when we did, we were told we were helping Republicans. That's right. Maybe listen to us from now on. Just a thought. He got some flack here from,
surely Professor Zenkus knows we're not talking about a political party.
Right.
We're talking about a make work program for the children of the elites.
That's right. That's right. Well, he got some flack from, this guy is a real lifer here. Radical leftists were attacking Biden because they hate liberalism and the Democratic Party. It wasn't an attempt at constructive criticism, and Democrats are harmed electorally whenever they are incorrectly linked to radical leftism. So no, we won't listen to you. And Zenkus replies, yes, we hate those things because they gave us the widest gap between rich and poor since the Gilded Age, and a bloody genocide champ doesn't change the fact that had you listened to us, you'd have won. Yes, exactly. And by you, I know he's talking generally there, but he may as well be speaking to Beto himself. This was one of the last days of the before times, right before the COVID lockdowns, right before Super Tuesday. This was Monday night, the Monday before
Monday
Super
night
Tuesday.
massacre.
The Monday Night Massacre, the big rally in Texas with Beto O'Rourke, Pete Buttigieg, and Amy Klobuchar after Barack Obama got the gang together to rally behind Joe Biden. So here is Beto O'Rourke. Yes, the same Beto O'Rourke we just heard from a minute ago on the eve of Super Tuesday 2020.
Tomorrow, March 3rd, 2020, I will be casting my ballot for Joe Biden.
Wow, listen to all those unbelievably stupid people called Democratic primary voters, the most useless political cohort in the history of this country. Wow. Wow, this really brings back a lot of memories. This is like doing an old school show. We've been criticizing Republicans a lot because they're the ones in power right now, and it's their turn to fuck this country in the ass as hard as they can for as long as they can. But this reminds you of the other side of the coin.
And let me tell you why. We need somebody who can beat Donald Trump. The man in the White House today poses an existential threat to this country, to our democracy, to free and fair elections. And we need somebody who can beat him. And in Joe Biden, we have that man. We have someone who, in fact, is the antithesis of Donald Trump.
Okay, here's what you have to understand. You never had that man. You never had that man. Had it not been for COVID and the lockdowns and the, just chaos that the world was thrown into over the course of the ensuing 8 months, Donald Trump would have beaten Joe Biden very badly in 2020. You never had that man. The election of Joe Biden, I wrote an article about this on the eve of Trump's second inauguration. It was an accident of history. That's what it was.
Yeah, right.
That's what it was. 2016 was the canary in the coal mine, and 2020 was the fluke. Liberalism imploded. Centrism imploded. because, as Professor Zenkis said there, the widest gap between rich and poor since the Gilded Age and a bloody genocide. The center could no longer hold, and the only reason they were able to regain power for a brief moment is because of this global emergency that Trump was seen as unfit to handle. But if it weren't for that, Trump would have won in 2020. And you know what? You'd probably been better off just letting him win in 2020 because you would have had 4 more years of essentially Mitt Romney with mean tweets. Instead, now we have like actual Hitlerism because you pissed him off.
We have Mussolini with meme coins.
Yeah, now we have Mussolini with meme coins. It could have been Mitt Romney with mean tweets. Instead, you got Mussolini with meme coins. Exactly. That's a good way to put it. But yeah, I mean, this was just an unbelievable blunder. And I wonder if Beto O'Rourke, because now he has strong words for Joe Biden. By fucked up. Do you mean you?
They all do now.
Yeah.
Now that it's not going to cost them anything.
Exactly.
Do
you regret taking the stage that night?
You're allowed to say that now.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you regret taking the stage that night? Do you regret endorsing him on the eve of Super Tuesday? They should ask.
Is he going to say he fucked up that night?
Yeah. Did he fuck up that night? Right.
Yeah.
Did Amy Klobuchar fuck up that night? Did Pete Buttigieg? Did Barack Obama fuck up by making it happen? Did James Clyburn? Can't say anything about James Clyburn. I just saw this.
Yeah,
before
I saw the clip where he said he thinks he could have served.
He could have served again. An hour later, it comes out he has cancer. He said that an hour before the cancer diagnosis dropped. Yeah. Did James Clyburn fuck up?
That's called karma, baby.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Did James Clyburn fuck up? Like, you talk about an accounting. There needs to be personal accountability. And all these people need to be banished from political life. Instead, who are they banishing? David Hogg, the one guy who comes in and says, hey, you know what? We need a change around here. Get the hell out. Right? Meanwhile, all these people are still in good standing.
We were supposed to pick a Zay-Zem.
Yeah, right.
You're
yeah,
a
exactly.
Zem. That's not going to work. That's not going to work for us.
Exactly. Yeah. Pathetic stuff. Really pathetic. All right. I deep state coup? ? Janice Anderson, doesn't this violate emolument clause in the Constitution? Does it?
Technically, no, it looks like, because technically he doesn't own it. His company owns it. So it's not directly going to him technically, but we know that it is ultimately. So yeah, that's where we are.
That's where we are. David Santucci, thanks for the $20, says, so who's tonight's guest on Sprockets, Keaton? Wink. Thank you, David. Alex Das Lieb, Chain Ulysses, Tales of Brave Chain Analysis, Russell Dobular thing. I think it was Chain Analysis. I think that was like analysis. Using office to enrich personal finance equals highest meme coin holders invited to dinner at White House definitely violates emoluments, Janice Anderson.
I've been having a few Biden moments tonight with the pronunciations.
Yeah, it's going around. It's going
around.
That's what they say. Baby Ethernet says, breaking, Joe Biden has metastatic prostate cancer. Yeah, they're calling it an aggressive form of prostate cancer. I think aggressive is code for this came on really quickly. There were totally no signs that he had it while he was still in office. This just came on all at once in the last 5 months.
I mean, I usually wait until they're dead, but
gonna burn in hell.
Russell, one of Russell's predictions was that there's going to be a formal diagnosis of Joe Biden this year, that he will be diagnosed with some devastating illness. So that's one on the board for Russell. He was very happy. Very happy to hear. It's a 0.1 for me. I predicted that. I got that. That right.
Well, I'm glad that rooster didn't die at my hands for nothing.
Yeah, right. Exactly. This for a certain prostate gland. You know who you are. A little late, but thank you. Louise Brooks, thank you. I recommend the Parallax View, says Cool Blue. Warren Beatty, Hume Cronin, Paula Prentice, fantastic cinematography by Gordon Willis. Oh, yeah. Underappreciated political thriller directed by the great Alan J. Pakula. Hey, maybe we could do that for a movie night. That might be fun.
Yeah, I've been getting a lot of requests for that. There are a few I'd like to do. I'd like to do Repo Man. You ever see Repo Man?
Oh, yeah. Repo Man's fun. Yeah.
That would be fun to do. And it fits your primary requirement. It's about 90 minutes.
Yeah, it's about 90 minutes. Yeah. Sorry, I realized after the fact I sounded like Colbert with the Tiffany comment. No, it was fine. That was a good joke. That worked. That worked. I thought it worked.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a good joke. We laughed.
Yeah. No need to apologize. It worked. Hey, the bottom line is a laugh is a laugh. Funny is funny. Doesn't matter. Kratom appreciation. Viola Kratom. I plan on quitting it too, though. It's too familiar. Lifesaver, though. Getting better from my less go round. Well, thank you, Stoop Sign. Appreciate that. Vanguard Van, do either of you know how dangerous Libya would be for the Palestinians? If it is safe, I hope they do get out so the kids can stop dying and have a future. I want the genocide to end. I don't know how safe or unsafe it would be. I mean, it's hard to say compared to what the situation is now. But yeah, look, I mean, I don't think they're gonna leave willingly. I like you. I mean, obviously you want this to end as soon as possible. It's Vito. Try animal feed stores. Cancer sucks. You guys rock. Oh, for a cowbell? Thank you, Vito, appreciate that. Wouldn't Juilliard have cowbells? Says free shit 77. Appreciate
I'm
that.
not
Yes.
in the city.
Juilliard's go to a music store. Yes. Okay. I Am the Owl says, happy to welcome Misty to Do Dissidents, a Rumble-sponsored band lighter than the military doesn't want you to know about, Industrial Complex. Excited for DD's Daryl Cooper Friday night show next. Thank you for that. Hamhawk says, can't fool me. I only buy meme coins with Hawk in the name. Thank you, Hamhawk.
Give it time.
That. Yes, give it time, my friend. Give it time.
The
Okay.
Trump Hawk coin will be coming before
Yes.
this is all over.
Yes, I have a feeling that is true. All right, let's move on. We got Bruce, the boss.
All right. This really is like one of our old pre-Trump election shows, as you will see. All right. So the boss has been getting a lot of praise for going up on stage and taking a stand against the man in the White House. So there's a little supercut of some of his comments. He's in Manchester now.
In my home, the America I love, the America I've written about, that has been a beacon of hope and liberty for 250 years, is currently in the hands of a corrupt, incompetent, and treasonous administration.
Okay. All right. So the boss dropping those truth bombs. Well, somehow the big guy, not the Biden one, the new one, got wind of that, and this is what he truthed out about Bruce Springsteen. I see that highly overrated Bruce Springsteen goes to a foreign country to speak badly about the president of the United States. Never liked him. Never liked his music. Okay, Darkness on the Edge of Town gets me every time. But other than that, or his radical left politics, and importantly, he's not a talented guy, just a pushy, obnoxious jerk who fervently supported crooked Joe Biden, a mentally incompetent fool, and our worst ever president, who came close to destroying our country. If I wasn't elected, it would have been gone by now. Sleepy Joe didn't have a clue as to what he was doing. But Springsteen is dumb as a rock and couldn't see what was going on. Or could he? which is even worse. This dried out prune of a rocker, his skin is all atrophied, ought to keep his mouth shut until he gets back into the country. And that's just standard fare. Then we'll all see how it goes for him. We have space at CCOT.
Yeah.
We've got a bed set aside for you, Bruce. Okay, so yeah, all right. I mean, it's funny and all. And for good measure, he took a side shot at Taylor Swift. Has anyone noticed that since I said I hate Taylor Swift, she's no longer hot?
That's good. Fucking funny.
Oh my God, you can't make it up. Okay, all right. So look,
I think she's still doing pretty good.
I think she's doing all right there, Donnie. She's doing okay. All right. So there are certain people whose job in our media ecosystem is to represent certain archetypes in order to give a patina of sanction from those sectors of society to criminals. So Oprah is that for Black women. Her job is to give credibility to sex criminals by standing next to them and giving them the imprimatur, the implied imprimatur of the community of Black women. Bruce Springsteen's job is to be a fake working class white guy to give cover to a lot of the people who have destroyed the lives of working class people of all colors. That is what he does. So, for example, he's excoriating Donald Trump, and I mean, a lot of what he's saying is true. He doesn't mention one particular subject. You'll notice about a certain Middle Eastern country. He didn't mention anything about the genocide that Trump carried over from the previous administration that he endorsed. Didn't mention a word about that. Nothing about that. But okay, so I remember a guy named Barack Obama. And Bruce Springsteen's supposed to really care about the working man. He cares about the working class. So what did Obama do when he was president? As I recall, Obama's foreclosure relief program was designed to help bankers, not homeowners. And he very famously prosecuted people who lied on their mortgage applications, while the bankers that destroyed the economy, they all skated, right? They all skated. They not only skated, as we saw in a previous segment, they paid him off when he got out with speaking fees. As soon as he got out, he did $1.2 million for 3 speeches to these banks, right? How was he about unions? I care about the working man. Oh, born to run, right? Oh, Obama quiet as union protests grow in swing states as 2011. President spent a full day in Ohio this week while union workers were raising their voices in protest. The demonstrators were in Columbus. Obama was in Cleveland. He spoke all day long about small business and innovation, yet did not say a word about the labor conflict. And that's NPR, which is not known for its criticism of Barack Hussein Obama. Hey, wasn't this happening while he was president? Yeah, I believe he was president when the Outback redneck sheriffs out there were deploying water hoses on Native Americans at Standing Rock in freezing temperatures, who were trying to defend their land and their water. So, wow, man, Bruce Springsteen, man, he must have had some very salty words for Barack Obama, this champion of people and workers and the disenfranchised. Now, we've all seen this video, but it never gets old. You might remember Barack Obama took a little trip to Flint and pretended to drink the water. Told the almost entirely Black crowd their water was safe, even though it clearly was not.
The reason I know I'm okay is because I already had some Flint water. There we go. I really did need a glass of water. This is not a stunt.
Not a stunt. Looks like a stunt. You didn't drink that water.
Now, I'm going to talk about this. Everybody settle down.
Does that look like you drank that water?
Yeah.
You didn't drink that water. All right, man. What a piece of shit. What a piece of shit. You go to this town of these poor people, first black president. It's basically a black community. They're all being poisoned. Their kids' lives are being destroyed by lead poisoning. And you go out there and you use your facile charm to tell them that it's safe to drink this poisoned water. So was Springsteen must have really given it to Barack, right? Oh, not so much. Not so much. Wow. Seems to really like this guy, this champion of the working class. That's so strange. Oh, he even did a whole podcast with him. You were right. It was on Spotify, but I think they showed it on Netflix. I'm almost positive. Renegades. They did a whole thing waxing poetic about the true heart of America. What I see out there are a lot of people with no jobs, partly because of my policies. But, you know, it was very big with the libs. They did a whole book together. They wrote a whole book together. Yeah, that didn't seem to bother him. How about Hillary Clinton? Hillary Clinton is quite right. $15 is much too high for a national minimum wage. She was fighting against the $15 minimum wage. That doesn't really seem like a pro-worker policy. What else did she say on the campaign trail? Hillary Clinton, single-payer health care will never, ever happen. That doesn't sound very pro-worker. And if you remember, I think there was a primary between Hillary Clinton and this guy Bernie Sanders, who was actually arguing the opposite. I didn't see Bruce out there. I didn't see Bruce out there talking about Bernie Sanders. I don't think I've ever heard him say the fucking name, Bernie Sanders. That's very weird for a guy in this era who's supposed to champion the working class to not say anything about the most successful politician talking about those issues in our lifetimes, I would say. I think we could safely say. Springsteen performs at Hillary Clinton rally in Philadelphia.
That was the eve
Weird.
of the election.
It's the eve of the election. That's very weird for a working class champion like Bruce Springsteen. How about Joe Biden? The Americans Joe Biden left behind on the bankruptcy bill. 2005 amendments to the bill. Biden voted against borrowers drowning in medical debt, seniors, service members, union members, and victims of deadbeat dads. And that's in addition to the very well-known making it impossible to discharge your student loans in bankruptcy. These are other things that he supported, amendments to that bill that made it even worse. Seems like a guy that if you're a working class champion, you'd want to run away from. Or he talked about civil rights laws that made the country more fair and just. Well, Joe Biden did everything he could, working hand in sheet with his segregationist pals to undermine a lot of those civil rights legislation with his crime bill. Joe Biden bragged about a harsh 1992 crime bill that did everything but hang people for jaywalking. That was what he said. It does everything but hang people for jaywalking. Now, is this okay? Well, he outgrew that? No. 2019, right at the beginning of his campaign, he bragged about how his segregationist friends never called him boy. They always called him son, and how they could get things done together. So what were they getting done together? Were they getting lowering prescription drug prices, where you might say, well, he was willing to do a deal with the devil to help the American? No, they were doing this. They were doing this. They were creating legislation to lock up mostly black and brown people. He did this literally with segregationist Republicans. And that is who Bruce Springsteen is very comfortable doing the narration for his campaign ad, using his song, My Hometown, to help paint him as this salt of the earth Scranton Joe. I mean, actually, he probably identified with Joe Biden as two fake working class guys who play on this false impression that they actually care about working class people. And how about Kamala, man? Kamala tried to keep inmates locked up for cheap labor. Seems like exactly the kind of thing somebody with this Woody Guthrie kind of an image that Springsteen tries to project. That's exactly the kind of thing that Woody Guthrie would have spoken out about, don't you think? That's exactly the kind of issue he would have honed in on. Harris says she opposes Israel arms embargo as she shuts down protesters. Well, it goes without saying that Bruce isn't going to say shit about that, Because if he says shit about that, all of his friends are going to call him, right? You're going to get a call from the Clintons, going to get a call from Obama's, not going to be welcome anymore. He keeps talking like that. Pretty soon, you're going to get articles in Salon about how Bruce Springsteen turned right wing. You know, they're going to talk about how he went crazy. You know, what happened to Bruce Springsteen, right? He doesn't want any of that. So there he is. You know, he recorded a whole commercial endorsing Kamala Harris. And I want you to look at that image. I'm not going to bother playing the video, but look at the image. I mean, this is what I'm talking about. Look at how crafted that is. Yeah, that's what Bruce Springsteen does. He goes to a greasy spoon in the morning and has a couple of fried eggs and toast. Yeah. This is what he wears. This is what he wears around the house. Yeah, Bruce Springsteen he's about to go put in a day at the plant. Right? There's all a put on. He's a fake white working class guy. That's his job. That's his use to the establishment. They deploy him to put a fake rubber stamp on their criminal neoliberal candidates who are robbing people like what he pretends to be. And then he's going to go up there. All of a sudden, he's got a problem with Donald Trump. And hey, man, we do a whole show now that the power has shifted where we slam Trump up, down, sideways. I'm not saying what he's saying is wrong, but the hypocrisy of it is pretty disgusting to me. So, you know, fuck you, Bruce. I like your music, but you're so full of shit. It's really sad because we need somebody of Bruce Springsteen's stature to actually speak out against what's happened to workers in this country. And it's pretty disgusting the way he peddles his ass to the highest bidder to give some kind of a credibility to these people that they really do not deserve. So God does have a sense of humor. So let's see what happens when oh shit, I didn't put it in.
Yeah. He's got a sense of humor, all right. He's says,
all right, give me 1 second.
Yeah.
You can read a super chat. Just cut around it. Just cut around it.
Oh. That's what happens when you cross the boss. That's your karma. Well, Pig's here with red sauce. We served at Trump's fundraiser. Yeah.
Yeah, I got it. All right. So some say this is Bruce doing a tribute to Joe Biden.
Tell you, you know, Trump might really be the Antichrist because they say the devil has the devil's luck. It's like everybody who takes a dig at him ends up getting embarrassed themselves. You know what I mean?
Yes, it's true.
Like he always has the last laugh, no matter what.
Yeah, that went pretty viral. But yeah, man. I mean, what now? You speak for working people. Like I don't know any working people who take him seriously on that level. I mean, look, he did write a lot of music that's very relatable for people from that background, but he just parlayed it into using that image to run cover for these people who have destroyed the lives of the people that he sings about on those albums. Did he at one time care about those people? Because a lot of that music is about a kind of dark side of America, you know, Badlands. A lot of it is about, you know, things gone wrong, born in the USA, in spite of the way, you know, he asked Reagan, he pointed, because Reagan invoked it as being about the new spirit of optimism, and it's actually about how the Vietnam veterans got fucked over. So at that time, you know, he wrote a lot about a kind of America going wrong for people and did a lot of kind of critique of it. But you know, even if he might have started out sincere, he got the money, he got the fame, and you know, you start hobnobbing with these powerful people. I think even for people in Springsteen's position, these people in Hollywood who are celebrities, I think it goes to their head to be included in the councils of these famous politicians and these world leaders. And, you identify with that class. And it's very easy when there's no one around you who's going to call you out for being a phony to pretend that you're on the side of the angels, right? Because you're not on the side of Trump, so you must be the good guy.
Well, you talk about there's been a lot of conversation in recent years about how Occupy Wall Street was really like a turning point, how like the post-Occupy Wall Street discourse has been an op of sorts, right? Like ever since the Tea Party and Occupy, there's been an effort to decouple class analysis from like political conversation. And I think I think Springsteen is a good example of that because, and maybe some of this is Trump. Maybe Trump is a function of that. Like, don't forget, it was Bill Clinton who kind of nudged Trump to run for office. Maybe thinking, hey, if we scare people with Trump, they'll embrace neoliberalism again because Occupy Wall Street represented a departure from that. Springsteen came out in early 2012, which was right after Occupy Wall Street, with one of his best albums ever, I think. It was called Wrecking Ball. And it was clearly a response to Occupy Wall Street. I mean, it was clearly a lot of those songs on there were very sort of like militant, class-conscious songs. Shackled and Drawn, Death to My Hometown is a great tune. And then there were some songs on there that he had written in earlier years, like Land of Hope and Dreams, which is a beautiful song. But that's an amazing album. And that was very much his Occupy Wall Street album. And it was really his last album of that sort. Like, past that point, he's pretty much just been a lib, right?
Right.
And so, like, something happened there to the society. Something
Yeah.
happened there, 2011, 2012. That was a real turning point in so many ways, including the trajectory of The Boss. Because that album, just this segment made me think, so I Googled the track list. Yeah, Jack of All Trades, This Depression, the song Wrecking Ball, We Take Care of Our Own. It's a fucking great album. See, this is a preview of my music podcast if and when I get that off the ground. But that was an amazing album. And, it was the last of its kind. Like, he's just been a milquetoast Democrat lib since then.
Well, and just watching the libs just pouring all over this, like, oh my God, this is so brave. That's not brave. That's not brave. What would have been brave is if he came out there when Joe Biden was president. It would be brave now, given the niche that he's settled into.
Right.
If he came out when Joe Biden was president and said, you know what? I don't think it's right to be genociding a bunch of kids in Gaza. That would have been brave. You'll never see him do that.
Exactly. All right. Let's pause for a brief word from Rumble Premium, shall we? This sponsorship is from Rumble, and it's one that's incredibly important to the survival of the company. So when Rumble first started in 2013, they built the platform for the small creator. They didn't censor or have biases. They were fair and treated all creators equally. No one thought platforms would censor political conversation or censor opinions on topics like COVID, but they did, and Facebook admitted they fell to pressure from the Biden and Harris administration. Rumble did not fall to that pressure, though. They held the line, and they are attacked daily for giving shows like us a voice to talk to audiences like you. They're attacked in corporate media, they're attacked by governments like France, and they're attacked from brand advertisers who refuse to work with them. So while corporate America is fighting to remove speech, Rumble is fighting to keep it. But Rumble will not survive with brand advertisers alone because they don't get many of them. So watching our show on Rumble is the most they can ask from you, But if you really believe in this fight, and if you have the means, one major way you can help Rumble survive is by joining Rumble Premium, which is the ad-free version of the Rumble platform, complete with exclusive content from select creators as well. So it's a great deal. Join the community that believes in the First Amendment and believes in our human right to free speech. Rumble is offering $10 off with the promo code STUDIO when you purchase an annual subscription. So go to rumble.com/premium and use promo code STUDIO. Like I said, if you have the means and believe in the cause, now is the time to join Rumble Premium. If you don't have the means, we are, of course, just happy if you watch us on the platform. Okay. All right. Jake, can you hit the scroll for us, please? Thank
Nico?
you. What's that?
Nico?
Nico what? What are you talking about?
Nico House. I said we were going to do
What
that
about
thing.
Nico? What about Nico? I don't know what you're talking about.
You didn't see? I sent that to you and Jake like 2 days ago.
Oh, no, I didn't receive that. No. Go ahead. What's going on? I'm not sure.
I'll get
I
it
didn't
on
see
that.
that. Did you text me? Did I not see something?
You didn't see something.
All right, I didn't see something. All right, let me do this, and then we'll do that. I don't know what you're talking about, but I'll find out soon. I trust you. So hey, if you like what we do here, you can become a member by joining at dudissidents.com/Patreon, /Substack, or /Locals. Membership begins at $5 a month, and perks of membership include call-in access to our post-show Q&As, which happen every Sunday nights. Tonight's Sunday, exclusively on Rumble. You'll also get bonus movie night live streams. We're going to do a post-game once a month with call-in access. So one of the last shows a month, we'll do a patron-only post-game. We'll send out links for those. Those will be a lot of fun. We'll do a couple of exclusive segments, plus we'll take calls towards the end of the month for one of our final shows of the month. You also get, because I know YouTube changed their ad thing, so I know there might be some more ads on the videos than there used to be. So if ads are bothering you, you get full ad-free replays of every live stream the day after they air, emailed to your inbox when you become a member. So those are the perks. It's just $5 a month, and it helps us tremendously to keep this show afloat. So dudissidents.com /Patreon, /Substack, or /Locals. The links are all right above the show scroll. Thanks to Jake for making those. If you're watching on Rumble, you can join our Locals by clicking that bright red join button right underneath the screen. So those are by far the best ways to support the project if you would like to do so. So thank you very much. Okay, what do we got?
All right, Jake says he's got it. Throw it up, Jake. All right, I can't see that. All right, hang on. All right, so our friend, thank you. So our friend Nico House had a very unfortunate thing happen to him. We're going to read this to you, and hopefully some of you can help out if you're well enough fixed. Greetings, family. I had many reservations about requesting help, but after several weeks of exploring our options, this was the only viable solution. Recently, because of a neglectful Uber driver, I had my phone stolen. However, I didn't realize that even though I blocked my phone, that the SIM card could be removed and hacked. And with this method, the person who stole my phone used my phone number to access all of my accounts via two-step verification and cleaned out all of my family's savings, including all of the money we were supposed to use this month to move. The amount stolen isn't close to the amount of help we're requesting, but we needed an immediate solution since my wife is due to give birth in a few months. Our lease is ending soon, so we have to move, and we have to pay a lawyer in order to hold Uber accountable for their liability in this situation since they are giving us the runaround. However, the lawsuit could take several months to a couple of years to see results. As you can imagine, losing our life savings in an instant was a gut punch I've never felt before, and feeling powerless to do anything about it, as everyone involved has given us the runaround, has left us even more disheartened and frustrated. So we're turning to you in this time of need. I know we can't get everything back, but I at least want to make sure my family has a roof over their head, my pregnant wife isn't stressing in a way that can affect the baby, and my family isn't walking on financial eggshells while we get the process resolved. Thank you all in advance for your help. Link below. So where's the link? Where do we send people?
Well, it's just it got to be a fundraising platform, right? It's not on there. It's got to be on there. Here, scroll down a little bit.
Yeah,
Can you post it
where
as
is
a
it?
reply? Maybe it's on a reply. I'm not sure. No, there's something off with that.
Hang on, I have it up in another screen.
That's crazy. He's got. I mean, Uber has to help with that, but it's going to be almost impossible getting them to do something. But Uber should really. I mean, as someone who's driven for Uber, it can be absolutely brutal dealing with them. But you would think.
Okay. So it's
they'd be liable for
a
that.
give, send, go campaign.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, yeah, hit that up for sure. Where is it? Do you have the link?
Yeah, hang on. But this is, I'm getting it as like a Twitter source.
All you need is the URL. All you need is the website. That's terrible. That's horrible. I don't know if Uber would do anything
all
for him
right.
if it was the driver.
So I'm just going to screen share it.
Yeah.
Unless Jake has it.
Yeah, just screen share the page on your end. Yeah, I would hope Uber could help you out with that, but I don't know if they would unless it was like their driver. But you don't know; it could have been anybody. Wow.
Are you getting it?
That's terrible. Yeah, it's here.
You see it?
Yep. Hold on.
All right. So I got givesendgo.com/help the houses.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah. Go and hit that up. Wow. I didn't see that. That's horrible. Jesus Christ.
All right. So they're halfway to their goal. That's the good news.
That's good. Wow.
Yeah. They're about $5,000. They're trying to raise 10.
Yeah, that's a nightmare.
So yeah, man, there but for the grace of God, if you can help out, help them out. Again, it's givesendgo.com/help the houses.
Yes. Much love to Nico and the family. Wow, that's horrible. That's terrifying. That's terrifying. I would imagine Uber would only help you if it was the driver, but you can't prove anything. You don't know. Anybody could have taken that. I'm sure they'll give you some runaround. We're not responsible for this and that, blah, blah, blah. You would think they might be able to help, but I don't know. All right. Well, yeah, go hit that up for sure. Givesendgo.com/help the houses. Okay. Wow. I didn't even see that. I must have missed that. Would you just see that on X? That just came across your feed?
Well, yeah, I mean, he DM'd it to me. I told him we would shout it out on Sunday.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, good. But yeah, I must have missed that text message you sent. Okay, what do we got here? Dwayne Vogel says, tragic to hear that cancer came down with a bad case of Joe Biden. I hope it recovers. Thank you, Dwayne Vogel. Big Papa Mau Mau, thanks for the $20. Even though Joe Biden is an evil man, these tapes of his are very sad. It goes to show how truly immoral and self-serving and selfish our news media really is. Absolutely, yes, I agree with that. Politicians aren't even good actors, such losers. Mark Pugliese, thanks for the $5. Boys, I call it black comedy version of the rise of fascism. In our version, the liberal Dems suck so bad the people beg for Hitler. Thank you. Brad Gilbert says, Christopher Walken owns all the cowbells. Thank you, Brad Gilbert. This is my daydream. Thanks for the $4.99. Russ, I have come to the conclusion Obama is a sociopath. Thank you. This is my daydream. Appreciate that. You got all your videos for the next piece? Because you're up next. The People Infinite, extra, step right up.
Oh, right.
Step right up and buy the dangerously revolutionary dissident dime. Worth a fortune, but buys you a shirt and mug. You all are the best. Stay cool, DD. Thank you. This is my last Rumble rant. I don't know what the cause is, but when 50% of my rants are outright ignored across months, I'm done. Glad to support you at least. Hope you're getting the money at least. Thank you, Vanguard Van. Victor Shakopopoulos, when did your son die? Yeah. Oh, Joe, you did so well. You knew all the facts, answered every question. I accidentally split this rant in two. That's okay, Victor Shakopopoulos. Nina Kant, hey, everybody, there's a shit cloud coming. Run for your lives. Thank you, Nina. Appreciate that. The 21-year-old Ukrainian national charged of setting fire to Keir Starmer's house, flattened car this weekend, is reported to be a rent boy. Probably nothing to see here. Slava Ukraine. Yes, I saw some coverage of that, actually.
That's the first I've heard about it.
I can't believe after all these years, Hillary hasn't figured out who created Pokemon Go. It was Nintendo. You dumbass evil bitch. Thank you.
We have Nick working on an update.
Yeah.
To the opening theme.
There you go. Okay. Free shit. Matt and Walter on America This Week put Ron Klain, Steve Ricchetti, Mike Donnellan, and Bruce Reed at the top of the list in charge through the Biden administration. Thank you. Free shit. Appreciate that. All right, let's move on.
Okay, so James Comey went out beach combing and got himself into hot water. So he sent out this picture saying he found some shells arranged in an interesting formation, saying 86-47. And the Republican Party and the Trump administration kind of just shrugged it off like normal, rational people. Oh, no, not actually. They didn't do that.
To FBI Director James Comey making a threatening post against Donald Trump tonight as the president is overseas. Fox's Peter Ducey is live from Abu Dhabi with all the details. My goodness, Peter.
And Laura, the real head scratcher about this very serious topic is that James Comey wants us to believe, and we have this photo here, that he saw a cool, these are his words, cool shell formation on my beach walk. And the cool shell formation, according to the person who used to be in charge of the FBI, shows shells in the shape of 8647. 86 is common restaurant lingo, of course, for denying service to somebody. But after about 30 seconds of Googling, you can see that a good chunk of people all around the world also associate 86 with meaning to kill somebody. An old mob saying, basically, you take somebody 8 miles outside of town and then you put them 6 feet in the ground. James Comey, again, a guy who has prosecuted mobsters, apparently had no idea that this was a thing. He deleted the original post with the cool shell formation, and he writes,
okay, I'm definitely getting marijuana smile vibes off of this story. Okay, I have given tours on the mob for over 10 years. As far as I know, I am the only New York tour guide who covers all three major mob groups of the 20th century, the Irish, the Jewish, and the Italian. I have never heard that in my life. No research I've ever done, no book I ever read, including mob wiretaps, did they use 86 in that way. If you notice, all of these hyper-realistic mob TV shows and movies where some of them, many of them used actual mobsters as consultants, The Sopranos, Goodfellas, they had actual guys who had been in the mob in the cast of The Sopranos. Do you ever hear them say 86 this guy? Did you ever hear that? You heard whacked. We're going to whack this guy, which is a real mob term. Do you ever hear anybody actually? No, I'm not gonna tell you. No mobster ever used a term that means to get rid of something that way. Like, I'm not going to tell you it never happened, but that is not a common understanding of that phrase. And this 8 miles out of town and 6 feet deep, this sounds like just total bullshit that in a game of telephone, one person said it and everybody else copied it, because I tried to run down where they got this from. And you have different sources that say this, none of them with attribution, none of them with any proof, none of them linked to anything that actually shows that that's true. I have no idea whose ass that came out of, but I'm calling shenanigans on that. Now, some slang dictionaries will claim that this is a mob term, not the 8x6 thing, but just to use it that way, which again, I'm not going to deny that anybody ever used it that way. I think I can say with some authority, it's not common. If you look at any normal dictionary, that's not even listed as one of the meanings. It is normally understood as eject or bar someone from a restaurant or bar. They were accused of cheating and 86th from their famous casino. To reject, discard, or cancel, the passwords will be 86th by next October. I think this is the way most people would understand it. Now, one of the really horrifying things about the social media age is how quickly they are able to convince huge numbers of people who had no knowledge of this 24 hours ago that they always knew. It's very Orwellian. They always knew 86 had that meaning. I promise you, most of the rank and file repeating this talking point would not have had that opinion 48 hours ago. 48 hours ago, if you asked them, what does 86 mean? They would have said to get rid of something, right? Now, everybody knows that's a mob term, because they told them everybody knows now.
Well, as tour guides, we know where it actually originated, which we'll get to. Yeah.
Which we will get to. I mean, it was the same thing we had people coming at us in the comments on the Abrego Garcia thing. You guys, you don't know the street lingo. You don't know the shit. Yeah, like you've ever left your mom's basement long enough to pick up street lingo.
Well, 86. That was one of my favorite tour guide stories to tell. So yeah, we know this very well.
Yes. So this is Christy Nome, brain trust that she is. Disgraced former FBI director James Comey just called for the assassination of Trump. DHS, no, that's not like hysterical at all. DHS and Secret Service is investigating this threat and will respond appropriately. Apparently not. Crazy Eyes Kash Patel there. We are aware of the recent tweet by former FBI Director James Comey directed at President Trump. We are in communication with the Secret Service and Director Karan. Primary jurisdiction is with SS on these matters, Secret Service, and we, the FBI, will provide all necessary support. So James Comey is currently being investigated for that tweet by the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security. So here's Cruella de Vil, who a lot of people told us was going to clean up the intelligence services. Here she is commenting on this, and very, she's adding a measured, reasonable, civil libertarian take to the conversation. Thank God she was confirmed. I'm so glad we got her in there.
Issued direct threats against the President of the United States, essentially issuing a call to assassinate him, must be held accountable under the law.
Do you believe Comey should be in jail?
I do. Any other person with the position of influence that he has, people who take very seriously what a guy of his stature, his experience, and what the propaganda media has built him up to be, I'm very concerned for the president's life. We've already seen assassination attempts. I'm very concerned for his life. And James Comey, in my view, should be held accountable and put behind bars for this.
All that kowtowing to the dear leader has aged her 10 years and 3 months. Yeah, it's pretty remarkable that somebody who literally commanded a PSYOP unit doesn't have any ethics or principles and is willing to say anything, as apparently she is. She is second only to Pam Bondi in her dear leadering to Trump's every whim. So here's Trump's comment on it.
Exactly what that meant. A child knows what that meant. If you're the FBI director and you don't know what that meant assassination. And it says it loud and clear. Now, he wasn't very competent, but he was competent enough to know what that meant. And he did it for a reason, and he was hit so hard. Because people like me, and they like what's happening with our country. Our country's become respected again, and all this. And he's calling for the assassination of the president.
Obviously, he apologized and said he doesn't.
Well, he
wasn't
apologized
calling
because
for
he was
violence.
hit.
But
look, he's a very bad.
What do you want to see happen? What do you want to see happen?
I don't want to take a position on it because that's going to be up to Pam and all of the great people. But I will say this: I think it's a terrible thing. And when you add his history to that, if he had a clean history, he doesn't. He's a dirty cop. He's a dirty cop. And if he had a clean history, I could understand if there was a leniency. But I'm going to let them make that decision.
There are 57 people who made millions of dollars off my pump and dump scheme. They like me very much.
Yes.
They like me, but they were very upset. They called me as soon as they saw this because they know I'm going to do another pump and dump in a couple of months. They want to get in on that. So Comey, after seeing the false outrage, put this out. I posted earlier a picture of some shells I saw today on a beach walk, which I assumed were a political message. I didn't realize some folks associate those numbers with violence. It never occurred to me, but I oppose violence of any kind, so I took the post down. Now, me and Keith, we talked about this a little earlier, so maybe you want to speak to this. Yeah, I mean, obviously, they're being really disingenuous and very willfully misinterpreting this to get maximum outrage out of it. The whole thing strikes me as very woke, the way that they'll put the most batshit interpretation on anything someone they perceive as a political or ideological enemy says, even though clearly they know better. But should he have tweeted that? Probably not. So, Keaton, you want to address that?
Yeah, I mean, especially when you are the sort of face of the deep state plot against Trump,
right?
For not unreasonable reasons, obviously, between Russiagate and all that stuff. And so, yeah, I mean, if you are the face of that and you have a following of people who can at times be hysterical in their hostility to the president, like, don't forget the guy who shot Steve Scalise on the baseball field. He was a big Maddow guy. Like, you know, Comey is a public figure who attracts that same audience. And yes, some of these people are fucking nuts. And so if it has any connotation, fun fact, by the way, there were 86 episodes of The Sopranos, and some people think that's a kind of hidden message.
Is that true?
Yeah, there were. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it does have a certain connotation in certain circles. That's not the meaning of the word. When I think about that word, that's not what comes to my mind. It's, oh, we're out of mayonnaise, 86 the mayonnaise, take it off the menu, right? Like, that's what I mean. But I would say, hold on one second, but I would say that, yeah, I mean, I don't think you ever want to, if you're a public figure like that, especially given the context, if you are the face of this, you know, like I said, deep state resistance against Trump, you probably don't want to touch that. So I think it was an ill-advised tweet. Now, if you are see, here's the thing about being a civil libertarian. When you're a civil libertarian, you end up defending a lot of people who you don't like and who you don't agree with, because the principle of free speech trumps whatever dislike you have for this person. So while I don't think it was a good thing to post, there is a massive distance between saying you should not have posted that was probably an irresponsible thing to post, and you belong in a cage for having posted it.
Yes.
Like, there's a huge difference there. And you can't get to a point where you're saying, because that was irresponsible, you should be in jail. Like, you have to establish a criminal intent, and I don't think you can establish any criminal intent here. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous to suggest that he consciously was making a call to violence. I don't think Comey would do that, frankly. I think he's too much of a weasel to do that. I think he knows that anything he posts that suggests violence is going to bring the wrath of hell upon his head, because he knows he's on Trump's shit list. So why would you do, like, it just doesn't, there's no case here, by the way. Like, there's just no case here. And maybe Comey belongs in jail for other reasons, for lying about Russiagate, for sabotaging the president, for undermining confidence in an election. Maybe there's proof of ill will. Go prosecute him for that. It's very dangerous to get to a point where you're saying, because this guy's probably guilty of other things, we're going to lock him up for this thing.
We're going to lock him up for this.
That's a point of no return. That's you're crossing a line there that you can't uncross. And at a certain point, the only way this descent into fascism stops is if one side decides, you know what, principle is more important than partisanship. When Kilmar Abrego Garcia was denied his due process, what do we have? All these MAGA people. Well, did the January 6th people get their due process? I said, no, not. First of all, they did get more than he got. Number one, yes. But I would not concede. I made the point on January 7th, 2021, the day after, that wasn't what it was being perceived to be, and that the people here are going to be railroaded by the justice system and made an example of very unfairly. And I would defend them, and I would defend Kilmar Abrego Garcia's due process, just like I would defend James Comey if I believe that he is being singled out unfairly, because it's not about the person. It's about the principle. You cannot get to a point where you are saying, because I don't like this person and they're probably guilty of something else, that means we're going to twist reality into saying they're guilty of this. This was a stupid thing to post, given who he is, given the context of who he is. It was not a criminal act, in my opinion.
No. And yeah, we're certainly, anyone who went through the hell of Bernie 2016, aside from Russiagate, is no James Comey fan, because he should have put Hillary Clinton under indictment. And he clearly did not, because he did not want to run afoul of the interests she represented. She was clearly guilty. He came out and said she was guilty, but chose to frame it as irresponsible.
Right.
You know, I mean, well, she did it, right? So she's guilty. She's mishandled classified information in a much more egregious way than keeping files in the garage. So, yeah, no, I mean, we're not fans of James Comey, but this is clearly bullshit. And he is actually being investigated for sending, I think, like honeypots into the Trump campaign. Fair enough.
Hey, if you can nail him on something he did, fine. Like
Fair
they're
enough.
investigating
Sure.
Letitia James for mortgage fraud. If she's guilty of mortgage fraud, book her for mortgage fraud. Fine. But
Sure.
you don't want to get to a point where you're saying because we think this person is a bad actor, we're just going to gin up a charge
Well, of
for
course.
something.
Of course.
Yeah.
And this is obviously ginned up because Comey, and I agree with you, like, hey, man, give it a little think before you tweet.
Of
right?
course. Yeah.
You're James Comey. You don't really want to put
Don't
that
touch
out.
that. Don't
Especially,
touch that. Yeah.
You know these guys have it in for you.
Yeah.
You know, certainly you should have seen this coming.
Yeah.
But there was a precedent for using this phrase in a political context regarding Joe Biden by opponents of Joe Biden. So you could see why he would have thought it's still ill-advised. It's still stupid. He should have thought 3 times before tweeting. But you could see why he thought everybody understands it this way because it was already being used that way in another context. So, you know, some people are saying, and this is speaking to the danger of you say once you open this door, they should go after Gretchen Whitmer. This is for Trump's first term. She had in the background 8645.
Right.
Geraldo Rivera, every now and then he jumps into these things and takes the counter position. 8647 is not a death threat. Murder is probably the last thing on the author's mind. 86 may signify we're all out of a certain item or no more drinks for this guy. He's 86, done, over, cut off. Reading homicidal intent to hurt a president is a paranoid stretch. Well, yes, of course. Here's Jack Posobiec, who's been on board with this whole thing back in 2022. 8646. 86. Joe Biden. Was he calling for Joe Biden's assassination? I don't think so, but I guess we have to get the Secret Service over to Jack Posobiec's house. Here's Matt Gaetz. We've now 86'd McCarthy, McDaniel, McDonnell. Better days are ahead for the Republican Party. Last I heard, they're all still alive.
Yeah.
So clearly he did not mean that they killed them. He meant they got rid of them.
Got rid of them. Remove them. Is this the world you want to live in where people can be thrown in jail for shit posting? Because if that's the world you want to live in, we all, not just on the creator side, but on the audience side, need to find new hobbies. Need to find new hobbies because you're not going to be able to talk online anymore if this is the direction you want to go. And power does change hands. This is what's so short-sighted about this. Your tweets are up here talking about 86 McCarthy, McDaniel, McConnell, Biden. So what do you think? What, you think the Democrats aren't going to escalate? The Democrats just passed a bill in Colorado criminalizing misgendering. What, you don't think they're going to escalate when they get in? And then what, you're going to escalate again? This is a downward spiral into hell. That's what this is. And the only way it stops is for one side to say, you know what, it's got to stop with us because the principle is more important. Living in a free society is more important. You can't be constantly fucking itching to lock someone in jail. That is not a desirable environment to live in for anybody.
Think about how much you enjoy misgendering.
Yeah, right.
You want that to go away?
Exactly, yeah.
You want that to all go away?
Exactly.
Come on. They're still selling on Amazon 8646, you know, just for MAGA people who haven't heard about the election. 8646, still on there. It's still for sale on Amazon. Should they investigate Amazon? Should they investigate the storefront that's selling this? Somehow I don't think they're going to do that.
No, 86
Somehow
means
I don't
prostate
think they're going to do
cancer.
that. Yeah. Okay, so getting to this favorite New York tour guide story.
Yes.
All right.
This is the real meaning of it.
The real meaning of 86. So this is the inside of Chumley's. Chumley's was a speakeasy back in the 20s. It was a very popular bar with writers, Hemingway, Fitzgerald, Kerouac, all hung out there. So if you look along the walls, you'll see book jackets. It became a tradition for a lot of the authors who hung out there to give a book cover of their book and sign it. So you had all these autographed book covers. Sadly, it did not survive COVID, and that was after it had already almost died. But a restaurateur came in and saved it, but COVID was the last straw and it went under. But, okay, so when I first started going to Chumley's in the 90s, you still went in the old way, which was through the courtyard of the apartment building that it's in the bottom floor of. Now, that was how you went in during Prohibition. Now you don't anymore. If I know how the village has changed, the new snotty residents probably complained about the noise. There's too much noise from people coming and going in the courtyard, so they locked it up. You don't go in that way anymore. But back in those days, you went in that way, but they didn't want to draw attention to that entrance if there was a scuffle or if you got kicked out. So they didn't kick you out the way you came in. If you got thrown out of Chumley's, you got kicked out this door, which is 86 Bedford.
Yep.
That is where to get 86 in all likelihood comes from. There are other explanations. They do not seem very credible to me. This is probably where to get 86th comes from. So from the beginning, the idea of getting 86th was to be gotten rid of, to be thrown out.
Or
it was
sometimes
never.
Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to.
It never meant to kill somebody.
Right.
And then it primarily got adopted into restaurant and bar slang for an item no longer on the menu. Or a person getting thrown out. It never stopped having that meaning for bars and restaurants. That's generally where you would hear that phrase.
Right. It was a speakeasy too. So if the cops raided the place, sometimes the bartender would yell 86 it, meaning run out that door.
Right.
Right. And so
Cheese it, fellas, it's the cops.
Yes, 86 it, the cops are here. Right, exactly. I loved telling that story as a tour guide. That's why this struck me when I saw that Comey was in trouble for this. Because that was one of the rare stories as a tour guide. When you're a tour guide, you spend a lot of time looking at the faces of your tour guests. And almost always their face reads, why did we think this was going to be fun? Why didn't we just go to the bar? What did we spend? $40 on this tour? We could have gotten 5 margaritas for that. Why did we do this? That's the look on their face most of the time. This story always killed because people love finding out the secret origin of a phrase they always use. So whenever I would tell this story, their eyes would light up. Oh, wow, that's amazing. Because I would tell it in a very clever way that set up the punchline of 86. And it would always kill. So I love telling this story. So this is one of the very few tour guide stories I'll remember for the rest of my life because I just loved doing it.
Right.
And that's clearly where it came from. Obviously, 86 Bedford Street. What are the odds? What do you think?
Right. Exactly.
So obviously that's where it came from. It does not mean what Cash Patel or whoever says it means. Take it from two licensed New York City tour guys.
They
don't even like James Comey. Take it from
Ducey,
us,
man. He knows all that mob lingo.
Exactly.
He's really down with the mobsters. So the Krasensteins decided to troll.
These fucking clowns. See, this is stupid. You should not don't troll with this shit, fellas in the audience. Don't push it with these fucking people. You don't want it. This is jackassery here. What they did. Because they're a couple of jackasses. They are. They always have.
Yeah. So Ed Krasenstein did this, and Brian Krasenstein did this, and the Outlaw Patriot. I mean, it's just a confederacy of clowns. Comey and the Krasenstein should be investigated. So they're trolling, and the Secret Service took them up on their troll and actually showed up and questioned at least one of them.
Moments ago, the Trump administration just had the U.S. Secret Service come to my house. You might be wondering why. Because yesterday I made a post that said 8647, which means, if you look it up, get rid of Trump, as in impeach Donald Trump, as in 25th Amendment Donald Trump, as in vote Trump out of office. Why, you may ask? Because last night on the news, Donald Trump made the claim that 8647 means assassinate him, which it doesn't. I would absolutely never ever call for violence against anyone, let alone the President of the United States. So the Secret Service agents were extremely friendly. They were like, yeah, we understand. It's just something we have to do because Washington told us to. Washington told them to come give me a visit. That's what he said. Trump wants to be a dictator, and I will not be intimidated into not voicing my opinions or my dissent against him, ever. When Biden was president, multiple large social media accounts on the right used the term 8646, meaning get rid of Biden. But now they want to create this new meaning in order to go after people who disagree with them. We're not going to become a dictatorship. Keep fighting back in a non-violent way.
Yeah, I mean, hey, they are jackasses. He's right on the principle. Of course, they're pretending to not understand what this actually means. They know their legion of half-bright morons are going to repeat anything they're told. I mean, I've seen it already. And as I said, people who had no thoughts about the meaning of 86, 48 hours ago are experts in all of the various underworld meanings of this phrase. And that's it. The whole point is to manufacture consent for a police state. That's what this is. I mean, to Keaton's point, is this the world you want to live in? Because you do it to them, they can do it to you. Oh, and you know those libs love their speech codes. They love their speech codes. Can you imagine what they're going to do when they get back into power now that you open this door?
Yeah.
Oh my God. You're not even going to be able to properly gender people. You're going to have to call everyone a they, them.
Yeah, right, exactly.
They're going to make it illegal to he, him, anybody.
Yeah, but that's why I don't think it is smart. Like you don't want to troll in that way on this. Like you just don't want to go there, because this is the danger of doing this. And this is, when you talk about the Luigi Mangione thing, the whole internet had their fun with that. But I remember watching Jordan cover that, and every once in a while he would just make a point that, if this does set a trend or set a standard, the backlash to that from the state is going to be so draconian and so fascistic that it's just going to crush people even further. And a lot of communists say, listen, if you're not ready for the real revolution, which we're not, you don't want to be trafficking in violence, certainly, or even violent rhetoric, because you invite the, erection and solidification of a police state. So you really don't want to antagonize and troll when the issue is violence and violent rhetoric. These guys are clout chasers. They're trolls. They always have been. And I think that's why they sent the Secret Service to their house, because they wanted to send the message, oh, you want to be a wise guy? It's not so funny now. And so I don't think it's smart. I don't think it was smart for Comey to send the tweet. I don't think it was smart for these guys to be jackasses and troll in that respect. People don't have a sense of humor about this, especially given the attempts on Trump's life. And so, I don't think it's advisable to go there. Now, there's a huge space between is it advisable to go there and is it a crime? Again, with Comey, I don't think he did it as a troll. I think he meant it as get rid of him nonviolently, remove Trump, defeat Trump. This guy's trolling. Did he mean it as a threat? No, of course not. I don't think so. But you don't want to pour salt in that wound. This is not a place you want to go, because the response that you invite is going to be just, you are daring them to escalate, and they will escalate.
Right.
And they are in power right now. And I'm not trying to sound like a pussy, but I'm telling you, like, when you
battles,
when you pick your battles, right? Because if you pick the wrong battles, they get stronger and they get more totalitarian, right? You want to pick battles that put them back on their heels, like the Alien Enemies Act, which now the courts are shutting down, and the people are overwhelmingly siding with the courts over Donald Trump and Stephen Miller et al. Those are the battles you want to pick. You don't want to tease and troll and poke at violent threat. You don't want to go there. Do not go there. That my advice to everyone watching: to don't be a troll. Don't think you're the smartest kid in school, because they will fucking come after you. These people are not fucking around. And Tulsi Gabbard, is an absolute fucking disgrace. What a disgrace. This civil libertarian talking about free speech coming up there saying he belongs behind bars for this. What an absolute piece of worthless fucking garbage. That being said, I have no doubt if she is the next president of the United States, you will see 6948 trending far and wide on social media. No doubt about that. People
Yes.
like them some Tulsi Gabbard, especially the chuds. So there you go. That's my take on that. Anything to add?
Shit, they have a kind of like stern mommy thing.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Exactly. Any questions, kids? Don't troll. Don't troll. All right. Anything else?
No.
Nope. It's a wrap on that? All right.
A wrap.
Brent Yoendo, me vote Repo Man movie night. Thank you, Brent Yoendo.
That would be a fun one.
Yeah, it would be a fun one. I identify with Banned in the USA, 2 Live Crew in the year 2025. Kuznetsky Bassane says, another great show tonight. Thank you, Kuznetsky Bassane. Steve Bertram, thanks for the $5, says, good show tonight. Thanks for all you do. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate that. Duke Lee, thanks for the $5 super sticker. Race Car says, man, guys, please go easy on the Bruce. Born to Run, still goosebumps. Oh, no, great song. Hey, like I said, man.
Okay, listen. In the intermission, I cut in my New Orleans karaoke Born to Run. So, you know, it's not to take away from the music, but fuck that man. Fuck
Thunder
that
Road.
Man. He should have really represented the working class against this accelerating wealth inequality. And instead, he sold his prestige to the ruling class. And now he wants to come out and talk about Trump. Fuck Bruce Springsteen.
Thunder Road, perfect song. Thunder
Love
Road.
Thunder Road. Love it.
You can't write a song better than Thunder Road.
Screen door slams. There's dress swings.
What's the line?
You can hide under the covers.
No,
and
it's
study
the one
your
about the
thing.
skeleton frames of burned out Chevrolets. She screams at night, her name at night in the streets. The graduation gown falls in rags at her feet. In the lonely cool before dawn, you hear their engines roaring on. But when she gets to the porch, they're gone. Oh, I mean, that you can't write better than that. That's just that is the pinnacle of songwriting. So good, I barely remembered the words. But it's been a while. It's been a few hours. Fat, not so fat. I did a shell formation of a weenie and no one bats an eye. Janice Anderson, my military father used 86 as a euphemism for tossing something in the garbage. Yeah, that's what it means. Yeah. Clearly, Comey doesn't understand street lingo. The only way to pull the contract now is post the numbers in reverse with Krusty the Clown meme. Amateur. Thank you, Eric Maines. P. Walker, did X instantly respond to the 8647 by bringing up the plight of about white South Africans? Yes, X seemed to have a bit of a run there for a bit. Yeah, we almost did that tonight. We almost did that one.
We almost did it. I honestly, I went down the rabbit hole with the Memecoin thing.
Yeah. All right, let's sell some coffee here real quick. Hey, folks, if you still haven't tried 1775 coffee, now is your shot. The 1775 starter kit just dropped, only 1,000 units. So you're getting the bold dark roast that hits harder than a CNN fact check, the smooth medium roast, and the Vitality mushroom coffee for clean energy and laser focus. No crash. All single origin, small batch, toxin-free, and mold-free. Plus, you're also getting a gold spoon clip because freedom isn't scooped with plastic. That's right. A frother strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's political opinions, and a black 1775 tumbler that says, I don't take life advice or caffeine from a woke sea witch. $170 worth of coffee and gear. It's yours for just $99. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble, wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler, it is. Yes, our dissidents say great things about this coffee. Reviews very positive from those who have given it a try. So go to 1775. That's right. Go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit before they're gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something, just like Rumble does. Start your day with coffee that actually backs what you believe. Okay, all right, let's go to some Rumble rants. By the way, folks, we are going to switch over to Rumble for the Q&A, which is coming up next. So we're going to display thedudistance.com/rumble. So yes, head on over for the Q&A to join us. We're going to get through the rest of these super chats and rumble rants, and then we'll be heading on over. Stoop Sign says, why does Beto get to run around Hispanicizing his name? That's the biggest and cringiest form of cultural appropriation. Then, of course, he's a hypocrite. Of course. Cool Blue says, elections are not the be-all, end-all, but I did enjoy the Democrats losing to Trump twice. Well earned. Mussolini with meme coins at least made the transaction fees run on time. I like that one. Well versed in Bitcoin, completely unregulated. Didn't this guy write a song about this? If he didn't lead Born in the USA, then Bruce doesn't have any set list skills. He went into My City of Ruins. I think he does that monologue before My City of Ruins. Give Obama some beaver shit water he would drink. There you go. Thank you. Good callback. Free shit. Obama hired a man as Attorney General from Covington and Burling to handle the financial crisis, who went right back to CMB right after. Oh, yeah, of course. What always made me laugh was that Bruce Springsteen literally had a podcast with the guy Obama, who created thousands of victims with the same fate as described in his biggest hit, Born in the USA. That's right. Thank you, I Am the Owl. Robert Toe says, I wonder if Bruce realizes if anybody's told him that his natural voice is about half a note off of perfect impression of Trump. Yeah, he does have kind of that Trump voice. That's true.
A little bit.
Okay. Original Just in Time. Thanks, Just in Time. Springsteen has never been sincere. He's been fake to the bone since day one. I don't know about since day one. But yeah. No, I mean, like I said, man, something happened around that Occupy Wall Street time. That was when I think there were some meetings called. Grateful for you guys, says Luis de la Cruz. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Luis de la Cruz. Robert Toe says, Biden didn't have a clue because he was down 55 years ago with what the oligarchy expected from him. Trump, on the other hand, had to be told to follow orders and pretend like he's boss. Justin Time says, wow, Tulsi's hair streak comes back to bite her. Cruella indeed. Yes, indeed. It's scary, says El Casador. Strap on Joe Biden was not running the show. Those around him were. It might be an interesting piece for you gents to do and see where the scum have ended up. You plugged your DD, give, send, go. We did not plug the give, send, go tonight, actually. We have to record a promo for that after the show.
Right. Yeah.
The U.S. sanctioned the ICC chief prosecutor. Yes, Microsoft blocked his email account. UK bank accounts frozen. All 900 ICC staff banned from U.S. entry. International law brought to you by Zion Nazism. Yeah, we're going to cover that on Tuesday, I think, for sure. It's funny, during my time waiting tables in college, when the kitchen manager says 86 salmon, I thought it just meant we were out of it. Never knew she had such homicidal undertones for the fucking fish. Yes, that's right. According to the AI in my phone, 86 is slang used by law enforcement and military to order a kill, though not necessarily, which is arguably more damning for Comey. That's the thing. Like I said, it does have certain overtones, like the mob. There are 86 episodes of The Sopranos, but that's not the meaning of the word. And look, if you're going to get into litigating that, well, I think he meant this.
Well, MAGA used it with Biden.
And they used it with Biden. But look, if you're having a conversation, well, I think it can be interpreted this way. I think it can be interpreted that way. At that point, it's not a criminal case. Like right. the standard for criminality, once again, is guilt beyond a reasonable doubt.
Look, does anyone doubt that they're playing dumb on purpose to gin up a fake outrage to attack somebody they don't like?
Right.
Bottom line, do you really think that's not what's happening here?
Right.
That they actually believe he was threatening Trump's life? They're pretending they don't understand what he meant.
Because Whitmer, I mean, yeah, they're posting these pictures of Whitmer. You know, they don't love Whitmer either, but Whitmer is not a sworn enemy of Trump in the way that Comey is, right? So they're going after Comey. He's definitely being singled out. And like I said, the standard for criminality is guilt beyond a reasonable doubt.
The shirts are still on Amazon.
Oh, maybe he meant this, maybe he meant that. You know, there could be some evidence against you. That doesn't mean you're guilty beyond. There was some evidence against Daniel Penny on that train. I think there was some evidence that he was negligent. There was nowhere near enough evidence to convict beyond a reasonable doubt. That's the standard. And that has to remain the standard for everybody. Otherwise, you're in for a very bad time. Everybody is in for a very bad time. I promise you that. Okay. Monkey Rotary says, I'm down for people for shit talking. Let's rock and roll, baby. I couldn't read that emoji. Sorry. Monkey Rotary, if you jail all the drifters, will Americans begin to heal? If so, can we play Hangman with them? Ask you for a friend. Thank you, Monkey Rotary. Russ, when are you doing poetry at Cafe Aroma? What did he say?
That's Friday. I think it starts at 8:30.
Okay, cool. EO Shush says I was going to troll you with an $8,647 donation, but I didn't want to get a visit from Secret Service, so you'll have to settle for $5. Thank you, EO Shush. Appreciate that. Steve Bertram, thanks for the $5. Jesse Wells is far more of the voice of the working class. Yeah, Jesse Wells is great. Jesse Wells is great. Jesse Jett is great, too. And the songwriter that Russ found, who is going to be featured on our intermission, which is coming up right now. So, folks, that is our show for the night. Thank you to our YouTubers. Thank you to our Rumblers. Thanks to Jake in the booth. And we are now going to go to a 5-minute intermission, followed by the post-show Q&A over on Rumble. So dudissonance.com/Rumble takes you to this very live stream. Please smash that subscribe button on the way out. Please smash that like button on the way out, and please head over to Rumble, where we'll hear from our patron callers for a Q&A. We will see you in 5 minutes. Until then, thank you very much for being here. We'll be back on the main channel Tuesday at 2 p.m. So if you're joining us for the Q&A, we'll see you in 5 minutes. If not, we'll see you Tuesday. Until whenever we see you again, be safe and be well, and thank you for tonight.
Courage!
Please clap.